my goodness, we are live
Mike started like
again.
this, so I wanted to start like this. We're both just like, blast. Hello, everybody.
Blessed to be rapidly reviewing once again in now November. I cannot believe
It's the end of the year. It's Christmas time already. Halloween's done. Throw all your pumpkins away. It's Christmas time.
You can get pumpkins through Thanksgiving.
You can.
It's a
you can.
harvest
Yeah, it's
season.
true.
But yes.
True.
We are
Welcome to
at
Rapid
full
Reviews. This
Christmas.
is where we're reviewing everything we played in the last 30 days or so, based on the last month. We always go through all these. We are doing this live, so make sure to turn on the live chat over on the right side of your screen.
Please do.
It's on
Also,
one of the sides. I can't remember exactly which one.
do thumb this video up if you're watching live or after the fact. We'd appreciate it. If you're new to us, we are the Brothers Murph. Please consider subscribing. We'd really appreciate that.
Indeed. So we're going to do rapid reviews, talk about every game. We always start with all the new games. We played 18 new games, 37 games total. Pretty good month.
Interesting. It's a lower ratio of new to overall games, but 37 overall games is still not bad.
Still not bad at all.
We got a chance to dip into the well.
Hey, Mary wanted to say hi.
Once again, hi, puppy. We got pups in tow today.
Yeah, and then after that, we will do a little Q&A, because we always do a little bit of a live Q&A. So if you're here live, make sure to throw some questions in the chat.
Get those questions in about games we played, anything we're excited for coming up, any questions in general, whatever it might be.
Really personal questions?
That dog is Mary, for anyone who's going to ask that question. That's Mary.
She's probably going to jump back up. Yeah, there she is.
Mary.
She's not done with her attention yet.
Mary after Mary and Pippin.
So because this is a month retrospective, we always talk about, we always shout out the new patrons we got last month, because they deserve it. They gave us money for absolutely no reason, let's be honest. So
I guess they think we're cool enough, man, and we'll
so,
take it. We
appreciate
appreciate it.
Sweet girl. So we're gonna give a big shout out to Evan Shands. Thank you so much.
Appreciate
Marcus Kraus.
Thank you.
Lauren Pretty.
Thank you.
Lindsay T.
Thank you.
Amanda Zhu.
Appreciate you.
Skylar Dewar Bushnell.
Thank you.
Randito.
Thank you.
Good one. Emily Herman.
Thank you.
Condar.
Thank you.
Tyler Hoffman.
Appreciate it.
Lavender Lotus.
You're the best.
Christopher Hammond.
Alve Design.
And Fire Bees.
Again, the internet provides just the best names. That is the last thing on earth I ever want to see. And if you ever see Fire Beast, it also will be the last thing on earth you ever see. So yeah, that's not the way to go right there.
Indeed. Hello, people in the chat.
What's up? We got Sharal in chat. Hi, Sharal. How are you?
Yes,
we got Jared up in here. Mark, Tizzy, Deanna, Joker, Will. Thank you all so much for joining us live. Get them chats in. Say hello to each other. Good days to you all.
Indeed.
Hit us up where you're hailing from.
Yes.
Don't dox yourself. Don't give your zip code, but general state or whatever.
Code, depending on where you are.
And we're going to get into some rapidly reviewing. So we're going to start again, as Nick said, with all the new games we played this month. New to us games.
Yes, new to us. At least one of us, right? And so, first up here is 20 Strong, which Mike did a great playthrough for. You can go watch it right now.
Thank you.
We've been playing a lot of chip theory games lately.
It's been a time. We did you recently did Hoplomachus Victorium, another solo chip theory game. 20 Strong is a much smaller, to be fair, but also solo chip theory game.
Indeed, it's a kind of a little box game.
It's a game system, I'll say. Actually, it's a game system, not
really
just a specific game.
20 Strong, technically isn't a game. Yeah, and so you played the Solar Sentinels, which was the one you played.
The kind of base set that comes with it, but what it is the 20 Strong is referring to 20 dice. You have 17 dice that are kind of attack dice, and then 3 that are stat dice. And you have different decks that you can play. The Solar Sentinels comes with the base box of dice, but they also have, Chip Theory has different deck boxes that are based on their other games. Right now they have Too Many Bones and Hoplomachus Victorium. So those ones will differ heavily. You're going to use the same dice, and you're going to use, there's like a little dial and things that are going to be able to be used in different ways for different sets, but you'll always be using those dice. But the flavor and what you're specifically doing will come from whichever deck you choose, and it will provide different challenges. You're kind of essentially going through a deck of cards, trying to overcome the challenges. And Solar Sentinels, there's basically an invading alien horde, and you're trying to go through these 3 stacks of cards. You're trying to get one of them down completely emptied, and then you can go face a boss. You played a little bit of Too Many Bones, which feels Too Many Bones-ish, where you have more kind of encounter-based stuff. Yeah. And you're rolling dice, and you can, put things on your character as your backup plan. So there's a lot of that flavor again of Too Many Bones.
Yeah, like how you get the enemies is done like Too Many Bones, where you take
whatever day you're
on, times by the amount of people, which in this case is just 1. But then you have 5-point baddies and 1-point baddies. So if you have 7 points that you have to do, you use 1 5-point baddie and 2 1-point baddies. So it's very Too Many Bones in that way. Yeah. It's very cool.
It's shorter, so it's a you're gonna play whatever game in 30, 45 minutes versus a Too Many Bones session might be 2-3 hours, right? So.
Yeah, but I really like 20 Strong. I think it's a really cool system.
I loved it.
I really like the Solar Sentinels. I like what I played at Too Many Bones. I'm excited to try Hoplomachus Victorium because I really like that game too. I know they're doing one for Cloudspire, Burn Cycle, all their stuff. So I think it's a really cool idea.
I think it's really clever. This is kind of remind us of like Rolling Realms from Stonemaier Games, where they sort of turn their games into very abstracted like roll and writes, and you can kind of mix and match a few Stonemaier games. And then also they do promos of it. They did like Terra Mystica and some other publishers' games. I just think it's really clever. I think it's really fun. It's really cool to see like, how did they get Too Many Bones into this very small package, and what things change, and how do they reimagine stuff? I just think it's clever. I imagine it's also very fun to design.
Yeah.
Because you're like, okay, how much of the experience can we get in? We only have these few pieces, these 20 dice and stuff. What can we
20
do?
strong, that's it.
It seems like a really unique challenge. So, highly recommend. It's really
20
cool.
strong. I really enjoy it. It's fun. And it's very small.
Really, really fun.
We played Boundless Stride into the Denland.
Yes.
This will be on Kickstarter, I think at the end of November at this point. It's gotten pushed back
from
a couple
Incredible
times.
Dream. Yep.
Yeah, so this is by Incredible Dream, who did Kinfire Chronicles, which was kind of a good. They seems like Incredible Dream is doing a lot of like, we're going to kind of do intros into these like story-driven games, kind of campaign kind of games,
but casual.
So again, we did a playthrough of this one, and we both actually liked it a decent amount, and I think a little bit more than we were kind of expecting because it's so darn simple. This is a game where you're like, you have a board and you have a kind of a map, and you are different kind of heroes, these cute little critters and stuff, and you're basically going around to these different like chips on the board, and you're flipping them over, and then they will sometimes give you like story stuff, give you different things to do, and you're trying to fulfill these missions. So you're also doing a bit of pick 'em but deliver, because you're getting kind of resources, delivering them in certain spaces, and you're kind of trying to finish 4 missions before you lose. Basically, it's a cooperative game, but it's super, super simple. Like on your turn, you basically will move your person, which is done through this kind of like stride mechanism where you have essentially stride tokens, like movement tokens, and you have to put them next to each other, boom, and that's kind of how you move around the map.
You kind of create like a little path for yourself.
Yeah, because you're then walking, and certain tokens have to be on certain landscapes, and it's a bit fiddly, but I think it works fine, honestly, especially if you're not like super, super like, it's gotta be exactly. It's like just.
I think it fits the nature of the game. The nature of the game is a little more casual, a little more free spirited. It's just about exploring stuff. So you don't. I think it's okay. It's a little fiddly because you're like, is this actually touching it close enough? Just make a call and flip it over. Like, who cares? Like, I think it's going to be really nice for people who don't get too into the weeds about like, let me get my ruler out. It's like, this isn't Warhammer. Like, we don't got to worry about that.
Yeah, and it's
just just
cool.
have fun exploring.
Yeah, and it was fun. The bits of story were like super cool, and there's like, again, it's kind of like crisis management. There's like fires breaking out, rock slides. You're trying to like manage that while trying to finish these missions. I thought it was really cool, and I'm excited to try more of it because we played again very prototype version of it. There's gonna be tons and tons of story to it, all this stuff, and I thought like Kinfire Chronicles, it was a really good intro into these kinds of games, and they've kind of done that twice now, which is cool.
Yeah, it does a really good job. So in that first game we played, we got like little hints of things where it's like we don't have the full story yet, but there's like stuff to do with constellations. So there's people have referred to this like meadow, but we haven't found the meadow yet. So it's like, okay, like, in future plays, we're going to be doing a stream of this, and we'll get to kind of build upon the first play we had of it. We got new missions and stuff like that. And so I really enjoy things like that. We're like, what are they talking about? And like, now I want to go find that thing. And it does it with like really just simple stuff, like putting tokens onto a map and everything. So if you're into that kind of thing, I liked it. I like the world. I like the characters a lot.
It's very cool looking.
The art style is really cool. So we actually really enjoyed this one. And it was one, we didn't have like low expectations, but we didn't really have expectations in any direction. And we were both at the end like, that was actually really enjoyable. It was like really a good time.
Excited to see more. Again, Kinfire Chronicles Cross, Incredible Dreams, new company. They're doing pretty darn good.
I appreciate what they're doing. I think it's really great.
We played some Cascadia Landmarks. This is the new expansion to Cascadia. Makes it an area control game.
Imagine, dude.
But with
the bears are arming, going to war. This basically is the expansion.
It makes Cascadia crunchier.
It makes Cascadia crunchier. Cascadia, if you think of the line of games, you have Calico, then Cascadia, now Verdant. All similar tableau building, putting tiles out games. Cascadia was probably the kind of most open, easiest game, and the Landmarks expansion just gives you more options, more things to think about and stuff, and it does absolutely add to the crunch factor, because now with the landscape portion, it's going to have to do with more with the tiles you're placing in the game will have different types of land types, and you kind of want to build big areas of like a bunch of mountains all connected. it's not important in the game. It is in the base game. But here, if you build a corridor, which is a just connected series of tiles of 5 or more for mountain or meadow or forest or whatever, you can then claim a landmark card, which will give you opportunities for extra scoring and stuff. So it puts more emphasis on that half of the game.
Yeah.
Whereas in the base game, I think you're more focused on the animals and how you lay them out.
And then just trying to place like landscapes next to each other because it can matter for scoring.
Yeah, you can absolutely get a big hit of points that way. So, but now it puts even more focus on that.
More,
yeah. So that kind of brings like this other half up to this level. So now, if you're really trying to balance both those things, there's a lot more to think about. There's also, I think, 3 more iterations of each of the animal type cards. Are just more. Variability and variety there. You can go and hunt the elk, stuff like that. So no, it's great. It's one that we like.
I don't know if I always want that though.
Yeah, I don't know if I always want it either. That's not a dig on what it is. It also expands the player count if you like.
And Atlas in chat, Mike got to play it with Atlas in chat, and Atlas said it's surprisingly crunchy. Yeah. And and it's one of the things, because one thing that I like about Cascadia, sometimes definitely over Calico, a lot of times, and sometimes over Verdant, is that it is the most chill of the 3. Yeah. Where it is kind of just like, okay, you're just placing stuff, it's nice. Whereas Calico, you feel like you're dying inside because it's so difficult. It's brutal. And Verdant's kind of a good mix between those two. Sure. And again, sometimes I definitely am down with that, but it's one of those things. I don't think this is this is not an expansion where it's like, cool, we'll just always play with this now. No. And I feel like a lot of expansions do end up that way. This one will be very much like, do I want Cascade to be crunchier or do I want it to be more relaxed? It was very good and very cool because it was a lot more to think about. Every single turn was more like, okay, do I want to try and get this? Do you want to really spread out and get a whole bunch of them? All this kind of, and then you're on top of that also trying to think about the animals and how they score. And so it's kind of interesting. And so it's one of those things where it's like, I would not play with this all the time. Yeah. Because one thing I like about Cascadia is how relaxing and chill it is. Yeah. But sometimes maybe I do want a little more crunch.
And it's easy enough to leave out. It's not like you have to separate tiles back out and stuff. There are more tiles in the game now because you can expand player count. But you always in Cascadia only use X amount of tiles per player count. So that's all easy. You can just leave the cards and landmark tokens away. If you care to not use them. Diana, real quick on your question, is it easy to set up? Is that in reference to this game, Boundless Stride?
I'm pretty sure that was Boundless Stride, and the answer is it's pretty
easy enough. Yeah, you just put a bunch of tokens down, face down, you kind of shuffle them and throw them down, and then you're pretty much into the game. So.
But a good expansion. I do think it's interesting. It's just one.
Yeah, I love what they're doing. So everything, it might sound negative, and it's not at all. Like the expansion is great. But it does that thing where sometimes you're like, oh man, we played King Domino. I really want something that gives more crunch. I mean, Queen Domino. And you're like, I don't want that actually. I actually did want just the King Domino simpler thing. So with this, I love that we have the option. It's easy to flex into doing the expansion or leave it out. I wouldn't, if you're teaching someone Calico for the first time, jump into the landmark thing. I think you keep it nice and simple. Yeah. Base game. But it's so nice to have it if you really want to beef up that experience, because what it does is really interesting.
It's cool. It's very well done. I just don't always want that, and that's okay. That's not like a dig at all.
Not at all. Yeah.
Stop trying to lick my face.
We played Evacuation. Nick hated it.
Oh my gosh, it might be the game of the year.
Hated it a lot.
It might be the game of the year, y'all. It's so good.
Nick got takes.
Here's the thing. Last couple of things we talked about some games we're pretty sure we're going to be game of the year this month. Changed a lot of that. Evacuation is so good. Mary loved it.
Oh, Mary, did you like Evacuation?
Evacuation is a game by Vladimir Suki and Delicious Games where you are on kind of I was going to say the planet's dying. The planet is not dying. Just the sun is going to eat it.
That big old ball of fire is coming for the planet.
Gonna eat it. And so you got to move planets. Something that if humanity lasts, we'll eventually have to do in a long time.
If we make it that far, we'll have to solve that problem. And I imagine we'll have solved it already prior to.
But so you're trying to move planets, and so it's interesting because you have an old planet, the old world, and the new world, and you basically are having to move everything over to the new world. Yeah. But the thing is all of your production, all of your people, all of your stuff that's making your civilization run is on the old world because there's nothing on the new world. Sweetheart,
you're just getting there for the first time. Yes. You have all these tokens and stuff which represent your production, and they're going to produce resources that go onto the old world side of your board, and it is important because those resources must be used in the old world. Anything you produce in the new world, you can use on the new world, and you can ship stuff between the two, but you can't just be like, I need a food, let me bring it over here. It's like, no, they're in different parts of the solar system or galaxy or however far we're traveling.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of balance that shift of like, how much do I offload my economy and infrastructure from the old world and get it set up in the new world quick enough so you're not like left in limbo where you're like, I don't have anything anywhere now. So it is a really interesting game of timing. You have 4 rounds at maximum. You can in the race mode, which we played, end the game earlier because you're basically trying to get to 8 production of each of the 3 resource types and get 3 stadiums built, which kind of keeps your people happy and you know there's entertainment and stuff. So that's represented.
You got to have bocce ball.
Got to have that bocce ball.
That competitive bocce ball.
Sweet bocce, you know what I mean? On the new world. So that's kind of the trigger for the end game, and you can get kind of basically penalized for everything that you don't get. You want to get everything evacuated off the old world because, again, anything that's left behind is going to be ate up by the sun.
Get ate by the sun.
So you're kind of trying to do that. One thing that's interesting is that this game has what they suggest to start with is the race mode, where you're basically racing to get to those production levels and get those stadiums built. You want to be the first one to do it to trigger the end game.
Yeah.
There's also a points mode where I think you play through 4 complete rounds no matter what. And there's goal cards that you'll get. There'll be public objectives and various things that will score you points. And they market it as like the race mode is like the way to play, but then they have all this extra content for the points mode. I'm like, it feels like that's supposed to be the game. And like, as like pretty straight up Euro gamer people, I'm like, I just want the thing against, I want to do the points version. So I want to try that version because I think that might be really the one that we really gravitate toward.
At least until
but it was
you get,
such a cool game, man.
At least until you get better at the game, because the thing is, at this point in the race mode, it's always going to end at the time of the points mode, which is the end of 4 rounds anyway. Yeah. We're not good enough to end the game earlier than that.
No.
So maybe when you get really, really good, then you're kind of like, cool. then it's fun to like try and race and try and like, I'm going to try to get this done before Mike to win the game. Maybe that will be compelling, but for us, it wasn't just that mode wasn't that compelling because we got to the end and then like there's not really good like tiebreakers for like who actually wins. And so like technically we tied, but we decided that I won because like we were like, no, this should be these things should be tiebreakers and they're randomly not. Like
so basically you can lose your production levels via those penalties. And there's various things that can give you penalties. And so both of us ended up
above the limit.
Above the threshold. So we both like succeeded in our goal. And it was just a thing like if there's more people if there's multiple people you all tie and then we're like but he has like I'm like 8 Nick's at like 8 9 10 and different things. I'm
so
like
I have more production.
You have a better society on the planet, and so that's why I'm like, is the race mode the version that you set out to make? Because it feels very much like I don't know tie, and I'm like so we came up with a tiebreaker in 3 seconds. Like why is
so again and that's just
again
like the
sounds like complaining
mode.
The game is amazing,
incredible.
But
I just think we're gonna play the points mode because one, it gives you gold cards too, which is like again you have something now to go like, oh, I'm gonna try and do this now because I have this thing that specifically wants this. So again, it's not like a bunch of complaining. Love the game. It's just like the race mode. I think we will only ever play if we get like good enough in the game where we're like, man, I can end this game like early round 3, and you're like, okay, cool, and then you can actually start to like race for it. So again, really love the game. I think it's out. I think it's.
I know we went on a tangent there, but for everyone saying like, this is your game of the year. The game is really
I would
great.
play the points mode.
I was just confused by some of those things. But what you're doing, the whole again, figuring out the timing and how you manage your kind of dual economies, like melted our brains into mush.
So it was
it's
super
really cool.
good, super good. I just think I think I'd probably play the points mode. I just think I'd play the points mode
all day because man, points
really
is best. If we're not doing points, what are we doing?
So I messed up. I actually put this in the new category. We played this last month.
Oh, have we? Really?
Yeah, it was on our last month.
It's still so good.
It's still very good. Yes.
It's so good.
Ezra Nehemiah is very good. This is the new Garfield games. It's kind of like a greatest hits from Garfield games. Has a lot of like little stuff.
There's like
from
DNA from other Garfield stuff.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I mean, people always ask like when we play a new Garfield game, like where is it in the listing? I don't know. I don't think it's in my top 3 personally. I think it's really, really good though, as all Garfield games are. And yeah, this is a game where you are Israelite exiles who are coming back to Israel to kind of build up Jerusalem. Build up the walls.
Rebuild the walls. Rebuild the
after
temple.
Babylon like leveled it a bit. And so you're rebuilding the walls, you're like teaching the Torah, kind of rebuilding the temple, putting stuff in there, and it's really, really good. It's kind of got the Viscounts of the West Kingdom thing where you're putting cards onto your personal player board. Those cards will have, in this case, banners instead of symbols. And then you're going to choose one of the actions that correlates with one of the 3 colors of banner. And however many of those banners you have on your board showing and tucked behind your kind of player aid. That's how strong that action is.
The action points you have for that action, essentially.
So again, it's this kind of like where you're like, well, I'm gonna put a bunch of grays down all in a row because then I'm gonna have a bunch of grays. But every round you're gonna play 6 cards, but you only have 3 spots on your board, so you're gonna have to cover stuff up. So there's always this really interesting, like, okay, so the first half of this round, I'm gonna go super heavy blue. And then about halfway through, I'm gonna start shifting over to red. And then by the end of it, I'm basically all red. And so it's really interesting. And there's a lot of different kind of paths you can take in the game. It's just really, really good. It's super, super good.
Yeah, I really love the managing of like your little display of banners and like how and when to shift stuff, because like most of the cards have multiple colors of banners on them. Yeah, especially with more and more plays, you really can start to figure out an ebb and flow of stuff and how you get your resources from maybe clearing walls of rubble to then use to build the temple and stuff like that, and or get like those scroll tiles, the technologies essentially that you unlock are so amazing because you can get all these little bonuses and perks that will drive maybe your direction in the game.
It's really good.
It's a really freaking fun
really
one.
good.
If you like Garfield games and stuff,
this
is right in the same quality level and everything, and I think there'll be the extra level of appreciation because you'll see kind of like, again, the DNA and little bits that they borrowed from their other games here. Another great entry. They're just crushing one after another these days.
And we're going to answer a bunch of questions at the end. We'll do a Q&A. So again, keep popping questions into the chat, and we will answer them kind of at the end here.
Yeah, but get them in.
We got to play. We had played a couple different expansions this one. We got to play Fame Privileges. Shout out to Matthew Jude for picking this up, and shout out to Paula for muling it back to the States.
She ended up bringing a lot of games home for us. Matthew surprised us with this. Dave surprised us with the Randenberger Canal, which we'll talk about in a moment. And poor Paula had to mule all of it. So we kept saying, like, listen, they're just gifting. We had nothing. We had no say in it.
But this is the expansion of Fame. Fame is a game we talk about a lot. This is a game that we think is like horrendously underrated.
Alice's and Chad's favorite game.
Yep. It's super, super fun. This is a game where you are getting cards and playing them out, and you're basically playing different things to this board in Egypt. The kind of thing with this game, there's kind of like 2 things that make the game different. One is that when you're putting stuff out on the board, no one owns it because the Pharaoh owns everything in Egypt here.
We're all working in service of the Pharaoh.
If you put something, if I put a city down, Mike then can use that city or build on top of that city or do whatever he wants to it because I don't know that city. The Pharaoh does.
Told me to do that.
Indeed. And the other part of this is it's kind of a deck. It's not a deck builder. It's a deck programming game. Because what you're doing is, as you're playing a card, will go into your discard pile. But when you do an administrate action, the sexiest of all actions in games, you then will get to get cards back in your discard pile, but you will get them in the order they were placed. So whatever card's on top, you will get that card, then the next card, then the next card. Yep. So if you play a card first, it's gonna get buried by a bunch of other cards, which is a good thing because sometimes you're like, I don't really need this card anymore. I'm gonna put it here and then bury it down. But you're like, I really need this card back, so I need to make sure I put it as one of the last cards so I can get it back. And it's this really interesting programming of your deck, but as the game goes on, you're getting more and more cards. And sometimes you're like, okay, I don't really need this one anymore. I'll kind of bury it down. There's a whole bunch of different cards. In Fame Privileges, what this does is it adds 2 new kinds of cards. It adds these kind of like teal cards, which are essentially ongoing abilities.
Yeah, you'll get like, we had ones where like stone now can be used for wheat or grapes. Like it can be, it's like a wild resource now essentially for you. So there's a bunch of like perpetual privileges, I suppose. Like they're discounts and things like that you put out in front of you. There's also these red cards which are one-time use. You can buy it and hang on to it and then at a certain time trigger and get like 3 stone or something like that. You'll get one time, one of them I think you can take like 2 turns in a row. So various things like that, but you don't then keep that card. So I think we both agree. Like I really like the things that it adds in the game because it's just really interesting. I love the idea of getting certain discounts and stuff that only I have and you don't have, or those one-time little event cards, you know, essentially.
Yeah, I thought it opened up the game even more, and it's already a pretty open game, which is cool. The only thing I will say is you do take cards out because you're adding now a whole bunch of new cards in, but you're adding in more than you take out.
The net to the deck of cards will be greater,
Yeah, and so the only thing I will say is it makes the game longer.
Yeah.
And Fame is already, in my opinion, right on the edge of being too long.
It's amazing, but you're like, I wish it was 10 minutes shorter.
Exactly, and this makes it longer. Yeah. And so it's the only knock I can give it is I don't like that it extends the game, because when we were playing it, I was like, man, like we were playing on a stream, we had like a 2-hour block, and granted we didn't start right at the beginning, but we were kind of like, oh man, we're not going to be able to finish this on stream because it's going on for, it probably adds like 10 to 20 minutes to the game. So I don't like that about it. Everything else I think is outstanding.
So the reason it adds time to the game is like basically the deck of cards that you can purchase is the timer for the game, and the game will only end once that deck gets depleted. So I think this is also a thing that's like maybe a little bit more of a problem at a lower player count game, because at a 4 or 5 player count game, in theory, cards are just getting bought more frequently. So the game actually might be balanced out. I won't say it'll be shorter because you also have more time for thinking and all that stuff. But it's one thing that we're like, oh man, a 2-player count game. Sometimes I'd rather just run my little engine and play my cards. But like buying cards is what actually progresses the game. So we don't mind, but it's just like one thing I'm like, it's just a little bit longer. But what you get to do, and it's really cool.
It's cool. The expansion's cool. I just don't like that it makes the game longer. But that's it.
It's the only bummer.
You played Pica.
I did. I played this on Board Game Arena. I had a loose idea of what was happening. I read the rules and stuff.
In it?
This is a 2-player game where you are putting out cards that are like different cups of tea and coffee and things in your cafe. You're across the street from a rival cafe, and there's a street in the middle. They might put out some like cards that represent people sitting in your cafe theme that are points multipliers ultimately. And what you're doing is you're playing a card, and the card will be a suit, a number of cards. I think the numbers are all 1 through 6, and there's 3 different colors of suit. And there are, in each round, certain suits that are preferred because you're going to kind of line up and look directly across each space and stuff and see who has the better, kind of stronger card. And then each card will have a scoring kind of objective. Like you want to have 3 cards that are sequential in number. So 2, 3, 4. It doesn't matter what color they are. You might want to have 3 or 4 cards, all the same suit, that have to be touching or just in your cafe in general. Stuff like that. The things I couldn't quite remember, it's like, I think you have to win the card. Like that card has to be the winning one to be able to score, and you're kind of trying to play the best of 3 rounds. So if you win a round, you get like a point, and if you win 2 rounds, you win. All the cards will also do like an instant ability, like swap your cards around, move things around to the opponents, draw stuff from this other kind of deck and swap cards out. So there's a lot of kind of interesting card things that go on. It's a little like mean, and you can kind of mess with each other. So I don't think it's like a game that like I will come back to a ton. But I played on Board Game Arena and it was fine. And maybe if I could play it in person and really make sure I understand everything that's happening, I think maybe it'll be a little more enjoyable.
Helps,
it's got great bestseller art, of course, so it's very
gorgeous,
nice looking. But there's just a couple things where I'm like, I thought like this meant I would have won that card, and I didn't. So there's just, again, certain things I didn't understand, just being a first play. So
totally.
Take that with a grain of salt. I don't have the best grasp of all the nuance of the game, so I can't like definitively say it's good or bad or whatever. But so I'd play it again, but I don't know if it's one that we'll ever like seek out to own.
Okay, cool. Good to know. Good to know. We played Fire Tower.
Fire Tower!
We did a playthrough of this one. This is a game with an interesting theme. It's not like an offensive theme, but it's just like, it's just
weird.
It's a weird theme. Where basically, you're on this like forest board. It's this square forest board. And you're each a fire tower. And there's fires that have broken out. But instead of putting out the fires, you're just trying to push the fire to your opponent's tower. Which is a weird theme that like you're not trying to put out the fire, you're actually trying to make it bigger and trying to essentially take out someone else's tower. It's just an odd theme. The game itself is like cool. I mean,
I actually like what you're doing. You're playing cards to spread fire. You're putting these cards, these water cards to put out the fire. You can put up break tokens,
super
like make
tactical.
fire breaks.
You're just like, I'm gonna put this here. Okay, you're trying to work around each other and stuff. It's got these really big, beautiful like fire gems. It's a cool looking game. Again, it's super simple.
It's very fast.
Very, very fast, especially at 2 players. And yeah, you're just playing out these cards and you're trying to kind of like outmaneuver your opponents and stuff like that, trying to get in a position where they can't really block it, all this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's good. It's fine. I don't think it's like outstanding, but I think it's good. But it's just got a really weird theme.
Yeah, it's almost like I wish it was like your magical you're trying to push like magical spirits or something, and trying to like something like that made sense for like, I'm gonna burn you down. I'm like, that's just literally like not how fire towers or firefighters work. It's just not how it works. It's not like, man, that's a different union over there. Let's bust them up. You know, it's just like, it's weird. Again, I'm like, this game must have had a different theme at some point. It's just like, what?
The game
but what you're doing, the game is fun. It's just
fine,
like, if you stand back and think about it, especially in California where the state burns down every other year, like
it's such a weird theme.
None of us want this. We all want to live.
Yeah, it's a very It's a very odd theme. Yeah, it's just a very odd theme. But the game itself is cool.
The game
and
itself
it's
was
good.
interesting, yeah.
But yeah, it's a weird one. It's a weird one.
It's a weird one.
I played the new Hey That's My Fish.
Yes.
There's nothing different about this one, right?
No, the game is completely the same. It's more quality of life upgrades that happen here. So what, Hey That's My Fish is a game where you're these penguins, you're jumping from ice floe to ice floe eating fish. You want to have the most fish to win. And the game is originally from Fantasy Flight, and it's a really small, compact game where you put out all these tiles in this kind of grid, and then you kind of move around and flip over tiles and stuff. But the problem is, the tiles are just laid out on a table, and you have to make a kind of specific grid.
Yeah.
But it was just fiddly to set up.
Yeah.
It took a long time to set up. It's a very quick game ultimately.
It's a longer setup than the
And it was
game
hard
itself.
to like actually flip the tiles over.
Without messing up everything else.
Yeah, once you have like some empty spaces, it's easier. So this basically gives you a grid board that you kind of puzzle piece together that has slots for all of the tiles when it has that thing where you can kind of push on it and just tips it right up.
Yeah.
And they're all separated ever so slightly, but they're nice and neat and everything in uniform. So it makes it so much easier just to move your thing, tip up your tile, and pick it up and put it down. And so it just makes, for us, what it came down to is like we never played that Hey That's My Fish because I'm like, I don't want to deal with the setup.
Yeah.
It takes so long, and here it's quicker and easier. You still have to get all the tiles out and flip them down, and you know, or get them all, put them in place.
Yeah, that's fine.
But it was so much easier to set up and play that I'm like, thank goodness. That's like the only knock we could have ever given Hey That's My Fish.
Yeah.
So it's the same exact game. Big chunky penguins now and stuff. They're not as like fun.
Yeah,
but
those are
they
super
look
fun,
nice and stuff.
yeah.
They look nice. So it's a great little game. As you move, you're gonna basically move in a straight line. Move your penguin to any tile, as long as you're not going over an empty space or going through another penguin and stuff. And then whatever tile you left from is what you collect. So basically, as you move, you're pulling ice floes up, which will create little islands and cut penguins off. And you're trying to like tactically cut off penguins, so now they're stuck on this small little island with a bunch of low-level fish and stuff, and it's really kind of interesting the way it works. But this is like, in terms of just making it easier to set up and play, is a 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
so great.
totally.
Yeah, it's a great classic game that we've had for a long time.
Yeah, it's a
Now
good
with the new version.
Indeed. We played Horrified Greek Monsters. This is the new Horrified, the third Horrified in the little
it's right up
series
there, yeah.
right there. So this
That
is the
one.
new, that one right there. It's new Horrified. I will say, if you don't like Horrified, this ain't gonna change your mind because it's Horrified.
All of them, yeah.
It is just Horrified. There are new monsters. New monsters do new things. Horrified is a cooperative game. A lot of pick up and deliver. Hey, Tease, thank you for that.
Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you for that super chat. Thank you so much. Said, if I could support you equal the laughs you give us, you'd be zillionaires. Thank you so much. Tease, you're
Zillionaires
so
in our hearts
wonderful.
where it counts. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you,
That's very
Tease.
kind.
You're lovely.
We
Thank you so
appreciate
much. So yeah, it's a pick up and deliver game where you have a couple different monsters, and they kind of suggest like 3, and each monster has to be defeated in a very specific way. So you have to like pick up and deliver stuff, move stuff around, do these things to essentially get to the point where you can finally like kind of fight off the monster, and then usually you have to go to where they are and then turn in a certain amount of items to then defeat that monster. And so, yeah, it's great. It's just Horrified. It's not really any different. The base rules are 85% the same. It's just now there's new monsters. And I like Horrified a lot, so new monsters is always cool. It's one of those things where we were kind of talking about when we were playing it, we're like, I don't think you need more than one Horrified.
No.
But at the same time, if they keep coming out with new ones, we're going to keep buying them because I like having new monsters. I like having the set in the series. But I don't think, if you were like, do you need all 3? I don't think so. I would say pick whatever. If you don't have none, pick whatever one is your favorite theme.
Yeah.
Go with that. And then if you want another one, then pick another one. But I don't think you need all 3 necessarily.
Because the puzzles and stuff from the monsters are different, but they all fall into a pick up and deliver style. Like, there's only going to be so much variance. With these ones, at least the 3 that we played, and my memory of it at the moment, there wasn't as much puzzliness.
No.
As
That was
we
more
haven't played all the
American
monsters in this
monsters,
set, but so it was a little more straightforward and stuff, which is not a problem given
Yeah.
the level of game and everything. But yeah, I'm with you. It's like choose the theme that works best for you. Like our favorite still is American Monsters because we just like cryptids. Like
it's cool.
more in general, but they're all really consistently good, and the art's cool and stuff. And I think it's underrated. I don't think people talk about it, but like the art on the cards is always like really neat.
Yeah, it's outstanding.
So this one's just
Again,
like
if
another
you like
great...
Horrified, you're gonna love this. If you don't, it ain't gonna change your mind. But it's really, really good. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. We played Imperial Miners.
You did.
This is in the Imperial Settlers universe, but it's a very different game than like Imperial Settlers and Empires of the North.
Yeah, you are ultimately. It's kind of like more. None of the games are long, but it feels almost like more like a filler game where you're playing through 10 quick rounds, where you're gonna be putting out a card or maybe 2 in a round, and you are building kind of level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and you have to kind of create these connected pathways. And then you are going to. The coolest part of the game is like you're gonna trigger the card you play. And then you're going to work your way back to the surface, and you can trigger this card, then that card, then that card, and then finally one of the 3 actions on the surface. So that is really fun. Like the more you can build deep, you can combo multiple actions together.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. And there's different like factions essentially that you can play.
Like Empires of the North and stuff like that.
Yeah, that will each have their own kind of flavor and stuff like that. So there were some interesting things going on. Like I don't think it's on the same level as an Imperial Settlers or Empires of the North. But I enjoyed what we were doing. Nick stomped.
I really liked it. I mean, I really liked it. Because again, I
had a bad game. Nick was pulling synergy. Like, you had it flowing, man. I was like,
how
do you do that?
Maybe that's why I liked it more, because I was just like, man, I'm putting this together.
I was like, this game sucks. I'm bad at it.
It's one of those things,
Clearly bad design.
I really liked it. I thought, because it's quick, it's a filler game.
It is very fast.
And I liked it. I liked the fact of like putting stuff down and be like, oh, this will then allow me to do this, and I can trigger into this card, and that allows me to do this, and going up like that. I thought it was a really cool way of doing it. It was really fun. I liked it a lot, like a lot, and I really want to play it again. I don't think I like it as much as like Empires of the North. I really love Empires of the North, but I thought it was great, much better than I was kind of expecting it to be. And again, if I want kind of like similar-ish in that kind of world to Empires of the North, but I want something quicker. Although Empires of the North is not long, especially at 2 players. So
it just feels like a bigger game. This felt more like a filler game, but they're ultimately like a similar length of time.
Yeah.
You know?
But yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was really cool. I'm excited to explore the synergies and stuff more. But yeah,
there's like these 3 progress tracks, and they're double-sided so that there's all 6 factions are represented, but you're only going to have tracks for 3 of them at a time. So that could create a lot of difference from game to game, I feel like. And you, again, were just really working those tracks in a very cool way.
I'm blind.
Which made me excited to play again, because I think that's probably where you can extract a lot of the wealth of the game is working those tracks.
Yeah, it's really good. I liked it a lot. I thought it was great. I thought it was really good. You played Jackal and Hyde.
I did. This is a tricky trick-taking game where you are Jackal and Hyde, the 2 parts of the personality, and you are just doing. It's kind of a straightforward trick-taking game, and the twist is that you start off fully as Jackal, and you are playing tricks in such a way that if you are Jackal, your main objective is to win and lose an equal amount of tricks. You want to be as balanced as possible, which I thought was kind of cool and like makes sense. If you're Mr. Hyde, you want to create the greatest imbalance. You either want to shoot the moon or go nil. You basically want to win everything or lose everything so that Jackal is fully imbalanced, because for every imbalance, like say Jackal wins 5 tricks and Hyde wins 3, there's an imbalance of 2, and if it was the other way around, there's still an imbalance of 2, so it doesn't really matter which way you go. The marker in the middle of the board is going to move that many spaces toward Hyde. And you have 3 rounds to basically try to, as Mr. Hyde, get the marker all the way to your side. And as Jackal, you're trying to basically stay alive for the 3 rounds. I played against someone who was much better at trick-taking it than me. As Mr. Hyde, I did horribly and got like 3 spaces total. They said, let's flip it around, because I've heard that it's really hard to win as Mr. Hyde. So I said, like, okay, I'll try Jackal then. We'll find out how imbalanced this game is. They played 1 round. They lost all 10 tricks. And moved in and beat me in 1 round as Mr. Hyde. So I was like, okay, I clearly am just outmatched. Like, you're just much better trick-taking than me. But I love the concept. I thought it was really cool. There's now a cooperative version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde versus Scotland Yard. Really want to play that one, because my guess is that you then need to not go too far into the Mr. Hyde side or the Jackal, or maybe at certain points you want to be Jackal or Hyde, and I think that could be really interesting to make it a cooperative
Fox
game.
and the Forest kind of duet kind of stuff.
I'm thinking so. So I'm really excited, because I thought the idea of it and the whole idea of like if you're Jackal you want to be equal and balanced stuff was really interesting.
Yeah, that sounds. It's both sound cool, but the cooperative one sounds.
Yeah, this is a cool game, but the co-op I really want to try, really bad.
Yeah,
so I think it's gonna be awesome.
You played Kutna
Aura, City of Silver. Super Euro game, man. Super Euro. You are... the thing that's really interesting about this game, it's a CGE game all the way through, is you are kind of building out a city and building out a mine, and you basically have guilds. Like, you basically will have 3 guilds that you... So, like, I was like the wood the food, and one of the other resources. And so like the buildings I can build in the city can only belong to those guilds. The other ones in the 2-player game we're playing belong to the other players, so they can only build those things. And what's really interesting is there's various resources that are required to build these buildings and stuff, but you only ever use money. And there are these sort of 3D built card holders that will be effectively like the current market for different resources that will change. And so basically if something costs 4 wood to build, you're going to look at like, what's the current price for wood? It's 3. Okay, so it's going to be 3 times 4. I have to pay 12 money to cover the wood cost like that. And as you build buildings and stuff, you might adjust or flip over cards and stuff that might change the markets up or down for those resources. Then when you trigger income, similarly, you'll see like, okay, I've bumped up these tracks. I have 4 things in wood. What's the current rate of wood? Oh, it's now 4. Cool, I'm getting $16. And so I love that idea of like, you're just only ever dealing with money and trying to manipulate the market to ultimately give you as much stuff as possible. And then as you're building out in the city, you're kind of doing a little bit of, not area control, but you want to build buildings that have matching symbols around them to trigger scoring stuff. Bunch of Euro like theme, like
sure.
it's
There's
just like
reasons
to get points. And as you build out the mine, you can all kind of build up your ore production and stuff like that. So I really loved, as you build buildings, you're going to flip over 3 cards and you might shift these like little sliders over to, again, change the market. It's kind of like if you're getting a bunch of production in wood, usually the value is going to go down because there's now a big supply in town. So there's supply and demand stuff. So it's very economic in a cool way. And I kind of like the look of it. It's kind of stark in terms of a lot of things are sort of black and white-ish on the board, but you have these pieces that are very colorful and everything like that. So it's just got a neat vibe. Cover is terrible, but like other than that,
it is not the best cover.
It's a cool game. It's really
I'm really excited to
interesting
try it.
economic.
We borrowed it from a
game.
friend, so it's over there. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but I really want to. Yeah.
See you. Yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot. Really enjoyed it. It's really
cool.
Felt different.
Yeah. Played some Neotopia with our good friend Shabo Bay. Neotopia is by Arcane Wonders, and we did a playthrough of this game, and this is a game. It's really simple. Basically, you're going to be
Canal-esque.
Yeah, kind of, where it's like you're basically there are the kind of 3 biomes, and you're basically trying to get as much points in each one as you can, because whatever your lowest one is, that's going to be your score. Well, that's not your score.
It's going to be your most valuable.
Your most valuable one, exactly. It's going to be times
value.
3, I think. Yeah. So basically, what it is, you're trying to essentially make these patterns in the different parts. There are these really nice acrylic pieces that are like red, green, blue, and purple. And you can put them into these regions, and then you're essentially trying to make patterns that are on these cards that you have. Like the pattern might be like you need to have like purple, purple, and on either side red, red. And so you need to make that in there, and you had to contribute. So if it's already in that region, you can't just score it.
Yeah,
you have to contribute. If it's already like red, purple, purple. You're like, oh, I can just bop a red in here. Boom, I've done it, and then you can score that, and you go up in that region in the scoring.
Yeah.
And then you can get these bonus tiles, which allow you to kind of break the rules a little bit, but you're basically trying to go around and trying to be equal in each one. It's super simple, pretty darn quick. I liked it. It's got nice pieces to it. It didn't like blow my hair back. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like outstanding, but it's good and it's really fun. I'd play it again.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a really solid game. And again, when I say it's Knizia-esque, like there's a lot of Knizia place out tokens and tiles and build pattern-y type of games and stuff. It's like one of those things I'm like, if this had Reiner Knizia's name on it, people would be like, Game of the Year, or whatever. Just because of the recognition from the designer. So, yeah, there's like really cool things to do. It's really kind of quick and casual, snappy. It goes by really fast. This was an enjoyable one. Like, will we come back to it a ton? Probably not, just because it's a fairly light game and... we just frankly don't have time, but I really enjoyed the play of it.
Yeah, it was good.
Quite a bit. Yeah, and the whole trying to keep the balance between the 3 areas where you can score
is always intriguing.
Is always intriguing and really fun.
Yeah. So it was good.
Yeah, really cool game. It's a good game. First of all, look at the cover. Tell me this doesn't whet your whistle. All right? Theme. Look at that yellow. This is a Randy Burger
Canal. It's
like
a banana pajama exploded onto a board game.
It's bad. Yeah, it's not good. But it's such a good game. So this is a Randy and Burger Canal. This is...
probably a top 10 game of all time.
Probably. So, okay, it's Uwe Rosenberg. To be fair, we are big Uwe Rosenberg worker placement game fans.
Yes.
And this is amazing. So this is a game where you are basically building out buildings, and in between, there's 16 slots for buildings. In between all of your buildings and around the edge are spots for pathways, various I should say routes you should build, because one of them is a pathway. Pathways, roads, rails, and canals. And what's really cool about this game, and this is in a point in history where they built these canals that then could start to branch off and stuff like that. So the theme of it, or I should say the history of the game, because it's a themeless game, but the history of it's really cool because like it was this big time of innovation with like kind of canals and structuring and building ones that split in different directions and all that. So it was a cool time. And so Uwe said like, I got to make a game about it. But what's really amazing is that when you go to, if you take an action to build a card, you have to pay resources, and he uses a resource wheel like Glass Road, which is always really interesting.
It's not exactly the same, but it's similar.
But when you go and build a card and it has all these effects and stuff, it doesn't trigger right away necessarily, because that card is going to trigger when you completely surround it on all four sides with different routes, different types of pathways, roads, and stuff like that. And most of the cards are going to want specific breakdowns of like this. If you have 2 or more canals around this, you get this kind of bonus, or you get, you know, these resources, or this money, or these points. And you can also then put bridges connecting structures together. And once each building has 2 bridges around it, it can trigger again. So each card can trigger twice.
Yeah.
So it all comes down to timing.
Yes, and that's what's
fun.
fun.
When do you trigger the abilities of this? What do you surround this card with to get the maximum amount out of it?
In the first round, and you're like, oh, I need to surround this with canals. I have no canals near it. So I'll just wait until like the last round of the game and then finally surround with canals and then score. So you don't have to do it right away.
Yeah.
And that timing is so interesting.
Yeah, and there's a progression of like A, B, and C cards that will get more and more into like
scoring,
giving you points stuff, because you will have in theory built up and gotten some resources from those early level cards.
It's just so
but the
good.
timing is so cool.
It's like the game itself is really, really simple in terms of the rule set.
7 action spaces. Most of them are like, get these resources or build these pathways.
Basically, get resources, build paths. There's a great player aid that tells you what everything costs. Like a railroad is like a steel and a wood, because that's how you make a railroad. It's like they're all super, super simple. And then like the cards themselves, there's an appendix for every set of cards, because most you kind of like, wait, how does this one score? And then you just look it up real quick. But the rules itself in terms of how you play are like super, super simple.
Yeah.
But then like the depth of strategy that you get into with like when to do stuff, what to put next to what, how you want to build your pathways, the timing of doing it, the time, well, I'm gonna do this one, and then next turn I can trigger this one. It's so fascinating. And then in typical Uwe fashion, there are multiple decks of cards. We have only played with the A deck.
Right.
There are A, B, C, D, E, and F.
So Dave found a secondhand copy of this at Essen that someone was selling, and so this was on GameFound, I believe. And there's 2 expansions that basically just give you more decks of cards. So I think in the base game you have an A and a B. Then expansion 1 gives you C, D, and then expansion 2, E, and F. So yeah, we have so much to explore.
And each deck in a because this is a 1 to 2 player game. In a 2-player game, you use less than half the cards in a deck. So each deck you can play twice with never seeing the same card. You can play this game 12 times and never see the same cards twice.
Yeah,
it's insane. And it's a 1 to 2-player game, and so it's also like 45 minutes to like 60 minutes, especially solo. It's going to be even quicker.
Yeah.
And this is one of those games that like I might even prefer solo, because there's like no real interaction other than like Mike maybe taking a spot that I want. Which there is.
There's limited spots, so you can block each other a lot. But like it's not like.
But in a solo game, there's also a little bit of blocking and stuff. And so to me, it's like I might want to even play it solo just so I can like get into that puzzle and just work that puzzle. We will say this version of Brandenburger Canal, as far as we know, is not coming to North America. No. But someone, I can't remember who it is, but someone else is making
something
it.
with an S, yeah. They are going to be bringing it over. It's going to be just called Canal, K-A-N-A-L, with upgraded art. So I think Diana was saying, just make it look pretty. There's people that are working on that now. So I'm not going to say it's going to be like oh my God, it looks amazing, but it will look better.
Yeah, so it will look better. So this is literally like, we'll have to play it a couple more times, but like, potential top 10 game of all time for at least me. I think probably for Mike too.
Real good.
It's so good. I mean, it is just so much
freaking good. The resource wheel is really fascinating because there's basically 2 upgraded resources, 3 basic, and
it's so good. It's just incredible. All right, we got kind of a hard out, so we got to get going here.
Oh, yeah. All right, here we go.
Finally played Revive.
Ooh.
People have been bugging us all year to play Revive, and we finally played it, and I was reading the rulebook because we were going to stream it, and then I'd finished reading the rulebook, and Mike was just like, what does it look like? I was like, looks perfect. It looks like a perfect game.
And then we played it, and it didn't disprove that theory at all.
So good. It's so good. It's a great Euro game. We were kind of like rebuilding or rediscovering. It's kind of like one of those post-apocalyptic Euro games, which are kind of a theme now.
Yeah, I wonder why that's all on our minds.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And there's like all these different paths you can take in this game because you have your own personal board with these different tracks that you're like bumping up. And then as you do this, you're getting these machines that you're putting in there that'll make you like unique and make you different. Everyone has a different faction. Those factions all have different powers, kind of like tech trees that are slightly different.
Yep.
It's really, really good. But essentially what you're doing is you're going around and flipping over these tiles on the main board that are then going to have some kind of like broken down cities, some different resources, stuff like that. And then you're putting out buildings as you go. Kind of, again, you're kind of rebuilding the world and rehabiting the world. And it was really, really, really good.
Yeah, it was just really neat. The way you slot in those actions of cards and stuff was awesome. I just really enjoyed. It just does so many things that we like. You're bumping up these tracks, asymmetry that's evolving throughout the game.
Yes. It's really, really good.
The exploration piece, flipping over stuff, bumping all these tracks, like trying to maximize everything. It does so many, and that's what the base is most version of the game. So as you play through that kind of
there's a campaign,
campaign, it's just a way to kind of like dole out all of the materials of the game over time. But I'm super excited to see
what else is there.
More awaits, but
there's like some hidden factions that you can. It's very good.
It's fantastic.
It's very, very
really,
good.
really, really good.
It's one of those Euro games that's very large. Unfortunately, I will say it's a humongous game.
It takes up lots of space.
That classic. Now Euro games are the size of just large people.
Full train boxcars. Yes.
Yeah, real talk. Revive is outstanding though. You played Too Many Bones Unbreakable. I had played it last month. We are going to be doing a playthrough of this very soon. So we've been playing it a bunch to try and get it down because it's got a lot of nuance, and especially the way you work each character is like complete. We've played our two characters are very, very different.
Yeah.
But it's Too Many Bones.
Yeah, and Too Many Bones ultimately comes down to it's sort of a dungeon crawly encounter to encounter type of game, and every character is vastly different, and the way you kind of want to build them will be different. Some are a little more tanky and defensive. They help out your teammates. Some of them are just kind of glass cannons and punch hard and stuff like that. So it really comes down to exploring and figuring out that character, and then how do you build out that character throughout your game?
Yeah.
Because you're going to have many opportunities to get training points and kind of increase your skills. Maybe you increase your kind of base stat dice, your health, your dexterity, which allows you to move and roll more dice. But then you're limited by how many attack and defense dice you can roll by those stats. So maybe you bump those up. But then you have a whole menu of unique to you dice that are only your character, and that's where all that flavor and stuff comes in. So how do you balance building up those stats, getting your dice based on your dice? Like my character has like 4 different like protocols and stuff. It's like, well, do I want to do something that does a bunch of status effect things, or just like a bunch of my big hitter dice, or things that allow me to really move around a lot? And each character has their own specific stuff that they build out and things to explore. So when I first played Too Many Bones many years ago, I did not enjoy myself particularly well. I don't roll dice very well. Luckily with Unbreakable, I've been on a heater lately. That means when we film our playthrough, it's going to go
real bad.
It's going to be real bad. Wood for myself. But I just didn't understand like like for me, I was like, I want all these cool dice. But in an encounter, you roll those dice one time, and then they're gone. They're exhausted. And so I kept every round like, I don't have anything I can do and stuff. And I hadn't built up any of my base stats because like, well, that's not very sexy. Like, who cares about rolling one more attack die? I'm like, that is vitally important.
Yeah, and each player...
I didn't understand that the first time.
Each player has like 16 unique dice. Yeah. You are not going to get all of those dice in an encounter.
I think in the last game, I got like 5 or 6.
You're choosing how you want to build out your character each game. And so it's also one of these, like, I just want all these. It's like, yeah, but you're never going to get all of those. No. And then they're one-time use, basically, each encounter.
Yeah, so you have to build up those kind of base things so that you can use those dice in select situations to maximum effect. So this time around, I kind of understood that a little bit better, and it made the game so much more enjoyable because I wasn't hamstringing myself because I didn't know what I was doing, which is just happens. So I enjoyed it much more this time. I really enjoyed it a
Yeah,
lot.
I've been
and
really
I can see how
enjoying
people
it.
would really get sucked into
Yeah.
it. It's still a luck fest.
Yes, in the end.
Because you're rolling dice for
rolling
yourself.
dice.
There's baddies rolling around, and you're rolling dice for them. And there will be some games where you roll complete bones, literally, for yourself.
Yeah.
And they just roll like crits all day.
Yeah, and you're like, cool.
And
it's like, that's how it is. You got to be okay with that, right?
Yeah, we
yeah.
literally got to the big end encounter, and before it got to my turn, because I rolled poorly on the initiative die, another random element, I was last, and I was dead before it got to my turn.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've been working for 2 hours to get to this point.
Yeah.
That sucks. So
Yeah.
what we said is, hey, you have 1 life, and we got to play the rest of the encounter, and it was really fun. But I was just
Yeah.
like, I didn't make a mistake
Yeah.
to cause
Just
that.
what it
And so
is.
it's like, you have to, with these games, be down for that. Like, that
Yeah.
is part and parcel of these games. Is like, it will go well. It
Yeah.
will go poorly. It's boom and bust. And like, the highs and lows are why these games are fun.
Yeah.
So you have to just,
But again,
I had
I
to set my
think
mind right
the
for that.
reason why Burn Cycle is my favorite chip theory game is because it is the one that doesn't really deal with dice.
Yeah.
Every other chip theory game, at least that I can
It's just
remember,
what they do.
it's like you're just rolling dice in the end. And again, you can mitigate things, do all this stuff to get ready for it, but like in the end, you can just roll really badly. And that's just part of the game. I do really like Too Many Bones. I'm liking it more and more. I'm getting really excited to kind of explore more of it. But yeah, so that's Too Many Bones. Played Western Legends Showdown. This is a 2-player only trick-taking game.
Yeah. Set in the
Oh, it's
Western
actually
Legends.
not really trick-taking.
Yeah, I guess you're
You're just playing cards.
playing cards with actions on them
Yes.
and stuff. Yes.
And you're essentially, there's going to be 3 locations in the game, and you're basically trying to win those locations. Those locations will want specific things. It's not necessarily like high cards or low cards. It might be like you want 2 of this color and 2 of this
it might
color.
be suit specific.
Suit specific, number specific, whatever. And then the cards you're playing will essentially allow you a lot of times to move cards around, do certain things to manipulate things, and you basically are trying to win these locations as many times as you can.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool. The one thing in the game is like you're going to go through these locations and win them multiple times throughout a game. But the locations, you only use 3, but there's like 8 in the game.
or so, yeah.
You don't switch them out. You just leave them there. And I'm like, to me, that seems weird. It seems like once a location is won, you should switch it for a new one.
I know. I feel like you could house rule that.
But maybe, yeah. I thought it was cool. It's a little like button shy type kind of
Micro
wallet game.
Yeah, it was like 18 cards.
I
I think.
thought it was cool. It didn't like blow me away. I was kind of a little bit kind of disappointed with it, honestly.
Yeah,
but
but
it was fun.
I like what the cards do, the actions and stuff, and how you play it, and kind of set each other up. Like, I'm gonna make
this
you
is after
fall into
one
this
play,
trap
too. I
and
mean,
stuff like that.
yeah.
And I want to try the different locations. But yeah, but it's like honestly, that was cool because it's like a cool world and everything, and just a fun little interesting game, and it fits in your pocket. So it's like one of them like. When I see a game like that, I'm like, I'm not expecting the world from this, and it gave me enough to be like, cool, yeah, fun.
It was
you
cool.
know, will we come
Again,
back
like
to
for
it?
a
We'll see.
teeny-tiny little game, whatever. Yeah, it was good. It was fine. But yeah, it was.
Did not hate.
Wasn't out there.
Did not hate at all.
All right, so that was all the new games. Now we're going to get
Quick
the old
sal.
games. We're going to go through these really quickly so we can get to some. And I guess you can bounce if you need to, and I can answer questions.
Oh, baby, sick and
Let's go,
hungry.
baby. I played After Us. Again, I played this on BGA. This is a really cool kind of deck building game where you are
Really want to try this.
kind of, again, post-apocalyptic world. That's what we're doing right now. Everyone knows the future. And you're putting out,
We know where we're headed.
You're putting out like 4 cards, and those cards will have different rows on them. And then you're essentially matching up stuff in those rows. So have like half of it on this card, half of this card. You put them next to each other. Now you have a full box, and you get to do that thing. The top row is always going to be you getting a bunch of these resources, and the bottom 2 rows are mostly going to be you exchanging those resources for other resources, for points, for different things, and it depends on what you put next to each other, because on the left side of the card, it might be like, you can trade in 1 flower and 1 seed, and then there's nothing else. So on the other side, you could put 4 3 points, or you could put 4 energy, or 4.
Yeah.
So the way you do that, I thought it was a really interesting way of doing deck building,
So
because then you're kind of like doing this puzzle, putting it out there, and I was like, oh, this is actually really, really cool. And then once you're used all your cards, got all your resource stuff, you then can buy more of these primates. You have like gorillas and orangutans, things like that. And then you get them, and you
orangutan build,
they're
for
essentially better versions. One thing it does, I like deck building games where when you get a card, it goes on top of your deck, which is always really nice. And you're essentially racing to, I think, 80 points. I really like this game. I really want to try it.
I really want to play it.
I want to try it physically because I think it'd be even more fun to kind of like work through that puzzle. But I thought it was good. I thought it was really good. A lot. I think you would like it too.
I'm so excited.
You've been playing a butt ton of Anachrony on BGA.
I do be playing a lot of Anachrony on there. It's real good. It's real good. It's just a crunchy, tight resource
Micro game.
Euro game. It's one that's interesting. Like the more you play it, the more I kind of
Hate it?
but the theme kind of disappears, right?
Right,
And,
it's because
it
of
just
mechanics.
becomes this like mechanical game, which is not a problem, and it is interesting. But it's like when I first was like hearing about this game and trying to learn it and stuff, my brain couldn't handle it. I was like, this is way too crazy. And it's like, it's just for anyone that's like worried, like, oh, I don't know how, it's just a tight resource management Euro game. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. But it is very tight on the resources, and you can basically borrow resources, and then as you go in the future, you have to go back in time and pay those resources back. So it's got some Bill and Ted to it and stuff, which is cool. I really enjoy the game. It's really cool. I want to now get into, we have our buddy's copy still, Crook's copy up there that has all the expansion stuff. I'd like to get into some of those expansion stuff things again, because I have now played, because of BGA, thank goodness for BGA, played the base game quite a few times, and I want to start exploring those other things, because now I'm like, okay, I got it. Like it's basically get some resources, build some buildings that'll give you, your own specific action spots to go to. Because there's these exosuits, if you're going out to the main world, which is just like ruined. Again, Apocalypse is heavy these days. And you have to power up those exosuits and stuff. So the more you can kind of get actions on your board, you can just put your workers on those. You don't have to power up stuff. So it's a little bit, cheaper, I'll say, to do that.
Yeah.
And so it's really fun to do that. And there's these super projects, and you're kind of just trying to cover up as much of your board as possible. But I really like it. It's really good.
I want to try it again. We played Ark Nova. Still, we finally got a shipping notification for the expansion. So we'll be doing a playthrough of the expansion soon here.
Guess what happened? Got delayed to Monday.
I know, I saw.
Why?
But Ark Nova is outstanding. It's so good. It's out. It's gotten all the love that it got because it deserves it. I just think it's so much fun. I love this game. I love every single time building out my zoo differently, getting new animals, trying like, oh, I'm gonna do this, get a bunch of big animals this time, or do this and get a bunch of small animals this time, or I'm gonna get a bunch of birds or what. I don't know.
It's just fun.
I just think it's fun.
Fun to build.
I like having to pivot in the game. I like when you have a strategy and it doesn't work out because of the cards. You're like, okay, I'm gonna pivot over to this. I like that. A lot of people complain about that. I think it's a fun part of the game.
It seems like the expansion does make it so that the cards cycle a lot more, so that'll probably help with that problem if that is a complaint you have, and I think it's a valid one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ark Nova's great.
Ooh, so without the expansion, it's great. With it, it's perfect. Oh, that's good.
You'll enjoy it. I like hearing that.
I played Beer and Bread. I played with our good friend Amanda Panda. This is a 2-player game where you are rival families across a river trying to brew beer and bake bread. And
it's so hard to say.
It's very hard to not say breast.
Brew beer, bake bread.
Yeah. Brew the best beer. It's hard to not say breast. I'm not gonna lie. Beer and Bread's really, really good. It's pretty simple in terms of rule set, but every card has 3 different uses. I love multi-use cards. There's drafting. There's planning ahead, trying to hope, I hope I get this card back because I really want to play it. It's so good. I freaking love Beer and Bread. It's one of my favorite 2-player games. I think it's outstanding.
It's so good. Atlas says you probably got screwed by the Black November sale Boardlandia is going on right now. Yeah, I will never buy from Boardlandia again. I don't think. I have been displeased with this entire
whole process. Real quick, before Draft Meadows, I played Black Sonata. I forgot to put it on the list, but I played Black Sonata. It's a great solo deduction hidden movement game.
Cool game.
It's outstandanding. I love it. I actually played it on a stream where I played Dreadful Meadows solo.
You did?
And then we also did a stream where we played Dreadful Meadows.
It's a good Halloween kind of game.
Halloween-y candy making game. I really like Dreadful Meadows. Having played it back to back, basically.
Really fun.
I just think it's really good. It's just so fun where you're getting these candy patches, kind of like candy fields. You're growing candy, you're harvesting that candy to buy more patches or fulfill concoction cards to fulfill contracts, basically.
Yeah.
Every person has a special confectioner. They're different. They work differently. It's really good. It's a simple game with a cute theme, great production, but it's got more stuff going on than kind of seems on the surface, where you can really start to work that system and work that engine in a really good, interesting way.
Yeah, really, really cool. Just fantastic production. It's quick, but you can maximize in this game, which is pretty cool.
It good.
It real good.
You play Garage Hotel New Zealand. How is it, Mikey?
Dude, it's good. I played with Atlas. We did a little game day, which was super duper fun, and it's awesome. I just love just stuff everywhere, and there's so many things to do, and you can get this card from that bonus and this thing over here, and literally bonus tiles.
It's the biggest, heaviest, yeah.
Yeah, it's the most Great Western Trail-y of them all because there's the most stuff to do, and if you're a fan of Great Western Trail and been playing for years like we have and been following with all the additions that you see up there, right there, it just gives you the most stuff, which is cool. Like, it's been really fun to explore. I didn't really this time do any of the ship stuff up top, and I got to do other things, and I still felt like viable in the game, which is really nice. I liked it a lot, man.
Yeah,
it's just really good.
It's very good. But Hadrian's Wall.
I did. I played on Board Game Arena.
It's been a very long time since I played Hadrian's
It's been a
Wall.
very long time. It's one that's interesting, and it's like one of those things that like we played it a few times when it first came out. I realized that like I think I probably like it solo better than all because you're just so heads down, like doing your thing and trying to maximize your stuff. And so when I saw that it came out on Board Game Arena, I was like, perfect. That's the perfect place for it because you can just kind of click around and stuff and gain your little things. And I played a game of it, and I played it kind of so fast. I don't know if I like was very strategic or anything through it. But it's just a fun, just bump up all these tracks kind of game. But one that like probably now that's on Board Game Arena, I'm like, I don't know if I like need to own physically anymore. Like I just don't know what occasion it'll ever come off the shelf again. I'm not saying we're gonna get rid of it, but it's just it's one of those things. I'm like, I'm glad it's on BGA. This is probably like the easiest way to play this game.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Because in the game you're just moving workers back and forth to pay for stuff. But the BGA version was like, nice.
Yeah, fair. I'm going to continue to play Hopalomachus Victorum, another chip theory game. A big, no, I'm still really enjoying it. It's a big old solo-only game by Chip Theory Games. I did a playthrough. Obviously, you can go watch that if you want to learn more about it. I really like Hopalomachus Victorum. Again, kind of like Too Many Bones talked about earlier. In the end, you're rolling dice. That's what it is. But I like it. It's of all the Chip Theory games, I feel like it has the easiest entry point. Hopalomachus is actually not that complicated. Cool. There's a bunch of different keywords on the chips, but there's a nice handy sheet, so you just look at what they do. I really like it. I've talked about it a bunch the last couple of months. I'm still really enjoying it. It's been sitting on my dining room table. I play like a session once or twice a week, and eventually I'll get through the campaign. And so, yeah, it's just been sitting there.
That's the best kind of thing, right? I feel like these games are meant for that.
Yeah, they are.
Where it's like they're sort of always set up, ready to go. You're sort of always working on it a little bit. It's kind of cool.
I really enjoy it. I think it's cool. I think it's cool they made this
really want to try it.
Yeah, I think it's cool they made this big old solo-only game. I think you'd enjoy it too. Yeah, it's just a good time. I just enjoy it. I've been enjoying Chip Theory games more and more. Yeah. I played some solo Lost Ruins of Arna.
Nice.
We played a lot of games like separately this month.
Yeah. It's funny because we were all here in town, but it was just
sometimes.
How it's gone. Yeah.
Well, you've been Mike's in play right now.
It's opening night tonight, as of recording this live. It is opening night tonight. So yeah, that's I guess kept me a little bit busy.
Give Mike some love and chat.
A little bit busy.
I played some Lost Ruins of Arna. Shouts out to Steve in our Discord because he played Lost Ruins of Arna. He posted on our Discord, and I was
excited.
man, I want to play Lost Ruins, and so I just played it, and it's really good. I still love Lost Ruins. I think it's so much fun. Lost Ruins is all about trying to extend your round as long as possible, and I really like doing that in games. But okay, I get this. Ooh, now I can do this. Ooh, that gives me this resource. Now I can do this, and I really like that in games. And Lost Ruins does it really fun. I just played the normal game. I'll probably at some point go through and play the actual campaign with the expansion now. But I really like Lost Ruins. I think it's outstanding. And it's better than Dune Imperium. Fight me. They're not the same. They're not even similar at all. But nonetheless, it's always the argument. You played My Shelf, Mikey?
I did, yeah. I played a game of My Shelf. I showed it to Karen and stuff. I just really enjoy it. I'm playing against Jamie from Foster the Meeple online right now as well. It's just like enjoyable. I just love the toy factor of dropping stuff. Matt Dunstan, praise be, Phil Walker Harding, you know what I mean? Praise be, don't miss. I love the kind of toy aspect, the kind of Connect Four of like dropping these tiles into your bookshelf and building them up and creating groups depending on the scoring objectives. You might want them to be like in a diagonal or in a straight line or in an X or whatever. Then you also get in general points for groups of similar things, like a bunch of cats together, trophies or board games and stuff like that. Yeah. So I just love the kind of, again, great puzzliness, very easy to access.
It's an area where Matthew Dunstan and Phil Walker Harding live.
Yeah,
right.
Like exactly. It's right in their wheelhouse. Yeah. And it's just a great, nice, fun game. And it's just I love the fact that you have your little physical 3D bookshelf that you're dropping stuff into. It's just immensely satisfying.
Great toy factor. Yeah, it's a good time.
It's a really fun game.
Yeah, it's a banger. I played Nucleum.
You did.
I played Nucleum at John D's game day. Played with Jennifer, one of our good friends, and I really like Nucleum. I really want to play it again. And so
it's been a minute for me, so I'm like, I'm forgetting.
Yeah, Nucleum is a new David Turtzi, Simone Gianni game. We did a playthrough of it, so you can watch it. And I really like it. You're essentially building out kind of routes to different parts in Germany, and then trying to power buildings that you put down with coal power and nuclear power. But you have to kind of build up your nuclear power infrastructure. You get mines to mine uranium. You have to be able to get it to those. You need turbines there to process it into, I don't know, cheese? What do you do with uranium? But nonetheless, you power different buildings, and it's really, really good. I really like it. It's a big old Euro game, board and dice. You know we love us some board and dice. Are you okay, big girl? Mary's coughing down there. Love Board and Dice, and this is great. It's too big. I will say that. I'm going to keep saying that for Euro games. It's one of the reasons why we did that list of small footprint and big gameplay games, because this, Revive, a bunch of other stuff, these Euro games are just getting humongous, and I just want them to be smaller. And so Nucleum, though, is really, really good. I really enjoy it. It's a banger. It's an absolute banger. We both played Obsession, I think, on BGA. Oh, you played it real life.
I played with Jimmy.
Yeah, I played it on BGA.
Atlas, and you played on BGA. Yeah, it's this game. It's just interesting. We were talking to Atlas in chat.
It's just different.
It's a funky game.
It's funky, but in a good way.
It's got some strangeness to it. But one that I ultimately enjoy overall. You are just basically playing out these cards using your kind of horde of servants and stuff. The help. Because none of these people, they're all highfalutin people that can't do anything themselves, which I think
they can't tie their own shoes.
Yeah, is fun. It makes me laugh how inept they are. And you're kind of trying to rebuild your home and make it a place of stature again. And so it's just interesting that you're doing activities and you have to play out certain cards and stuff like that.
Doing croquet in the park.
Yeah, it's fun things to like just be all like, ooh, what is
it's very,
Yeah. It's silly. We backed the recent characters expansion on metal coins because it was dumb cheap. It was like with the coins like less than $40.
Yeah, I'm like,
I'm backing that.
I really like Obsession. Like I said, it's a game that really does not feel like any other game.
Yeah, you're
just funky,
hosting events
in a good way. It's really fun. It's just really unique and really fun and
a little more difficult to manage than you think in terms of like you have to play X amount of cards for this activity, and it's like it actually is a little more thoughtful to make those things happen.
Yeah, I really like Obsession a lot. It's very, very fun. I played Paint the Roses.
I did. I taught some friends Paint the Roses
this game
stuff.
Is great.
It's such a good game. I loved showing this game to people, especially like the folks I was showing are not. They play games and stuff, but they play Sushi Go. Their favorite game's Unmatched. They have a few things, but they haven't seen the wider world yet.
Yeah,
and so I was just like, "What do you think of this?" And they were like, at first, like, "I don't get it. How does it work?" And then we got into it and they started to click, and then I went to put Logan down for bed and Karen swapped in, and when I came back down, the three of them had played like 3 games back to back, and I was just like, yes, like that is awesome. Like that makes me so happy. Like to show something that gets people and it gets hooks in them. And this game can do that. And so that's why I'm just like, this game is so genius.
I think it's brilliant.
Cooperative deduction. The art is amazing. The production, we have the deluxe version. Even the basic one is good, but the deluxe version is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's just a cool freaking game.
It's just so good. It's just so good. I think it's a masterpiece. Really cool. It's so good. It's just cooperative deduction. It looks good. It's just interesting the way it works. It's just fascinating.
I highly recommend. Don't get your head chopped off.
We just played Point City the other day.
Just played some Point City.
On Halloween, actually. Was it Halloween? No.
Yeah. It was. This is a Splendor killer, everybody. This is people compare it to Splendor because you are ultimately drafting resource and or building cards from a tableau in the center of the board. You have to take 2 adjacent cards. And if you get resource cards, you add them to your hand to then help pay for buildings. And as you play out these buildings that represent your growing city, these buildings a lot of times will provide perpetual resources. They'll always provide an energy. So on future turns, you can use that to pay one of the energy costs of a building that you're building. Yep. And so there's that kind of nice ramp up of like getting more and more of these constant resources to build bigger and better buildings as you go. The game is nice and quick. There's kind of 3 levels of cards. So as you build up, the cards get more expensive and they start to generate more points and stuff like that. But hopefully you've built up that infrastructure similar to like a Splendor. We start building those level 3 cards. It's just really enjoyable.
It's just good.
Nice
Again, the flat out games, they just
cheeky
crush.
Little art.
Yeah, it's very good. I played Sweet Mess.
You did.
Pastry competition. I played this with Paula, Panda, and Matt from Silver Metal Tavern. Really, really fun. I really like this game. We did a playthrough of this not too long ago, so you can see us play it here. And it's kind of in that chai-ish realm for us, where it's kind of a super pretty, super overproduced, like Gateway Plus level game. That just really hooks people into the hobby. Because again, as much as I love like Carcassonne, it's not like a particularly compelling theme. It's not a particularly compelling looking game. Yeah. I think it's really fun. But like, it's just, these kinds of games are really good to get people into games, basically. Yeah. But this is a game where you are
You're pastry chefs.
Doing an action, you're a pastry chef, you're getting resources from the kind of central kitchen, and as you're getting stuff, you're creating messes, which essentially is spilling ingredients onto different parts of the board.
Different bowls of ingredients.
Yeah, you're very bad at cleanliness, basically. And you're basically trying to fulfill contracts. You're trying to make desserts, basically. You're like, oh, this dessert requires 4 chocolates, 2 candies, and 3 like whipped cream. Okay, cool. And then you get those chips. It's just really, really nice. It's smooth. I think it works really well, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, really good. All right, a couple more here, and then Nick will probably have to take over
here.
Q&A.
We played Vagrant Song again.
We played another game of Vagrant Song. Encore, people kind of from Weird Games suggested, hey, do this kind of setup
kind
right
of built,
here.
Built this out for
a little bit of pre-build to go into kind of the higher level boss battle. And we had a good fun, better luck this time. And we also knew a little bit better what we were doing, so we were successful, right? We succeeded?
Yes, we did succeed, yes.
In breaking the ghosts and restoring their humanity.
It's a tough one, too, but yeah, we did it.
So it's just a cool game with a really interesting theme. This is another one which is similar, like we were talking about, like chip theory games sometimes, where it's like, the dice are going to go well or not well, and you just might lose because of just like bad luck. Like for example, we played 2 games now, and anytime you roll a 6 for any character, it's called a booming boxcar, where you get to then it's like an exploding die. It's a success, and you get to roll another die. 2 complete games, Nick and I combined rolled maybe 5 6s the whole game. Like the odds of that, when you're rolling multiple dice every turn.
I've played this game 3 times. At least I have rolled 2 6s.
That is just crazy.
It's insane.
But that's what dice do, right? They just do what they do.
So you just got to know that sometimes it's going to swing you the wrong way. Yeah. I love the theme, though.
It's really
I love
cool
the look.
Theme.
Every hint you're playing really is different and feels different. It's such a cool world. It's such a cool game. Just know, kind of like other games like this, it's like you're rolling dice. Sometimes it's going to go badly for you.
Yep. I have to take off, my friends. I got a baby.
I think it's the last one, so I will finish off.
Have a thing. White Castle, I love it. Possibly game of the year. That's all I'll say. Everyone, cheers. Thanks so much. Nick, take over.
So just mute yourself and you're good.
Muted.
I'm going to double check, make sure Mike is muted. Muted. Mikey has got to go be a dad, I guess. So the White Castle is really, really good, though. It's outstanding. Another contender for game of the year. This is a game that's all about, sorry, I'm going to check something. It's all about trying to, kind of like Lost Wheels Ark, you're trying to extend your turns through combo wombos, which we absolutely love. Because in this game, you are only going to have 9 turns in the entire game. That's it. But on your turn, you're going to choose a die from this bridge, and you're going to put it onto an action spot, and that will allow you to do certain actions. The 3 main actions are putting courtiers in the castle, putting warriors into the kind of training yard, or putting gardeners out in the garden. But the thing is a lot of times when you do those actions, do these main actions, they then allow you to do another action. Like, oh, this one here then allows me to do any like orange colored action. Oh, this orange colored action here is now putting a courtier. Oh, and this courtier now allows me to do this kind of action. And you can combo these different things. You only have 9 turns in the entire game. And so the whole purpose is trying to do as much as humanly possible with those 9 turns. And I really, really enjoy games that do that. I think it's really, really fun. I think it's a banger. Again, up there for game of the year. It might have gotten taken over by a couple of things for me personally, but I think it's just like, it's so much fun. It's just, if you like combo wombos, if you like the kind of trying to extend your turn, do as much as possible, give it a shot. Small game in terms of its footprint, really, really good. And yeah, it's just an absolute masterpiece. Is that the last one? Oh, not quite. We played Witchstone. Combo wombos. You know how much we love combo wombos. Witchstone is a game all about combos. And this is a game by Reiner Knizia, and this is a game where you are going to be putting out these kind of like hexomino tiles, little domino tiles that have 2 actions, and you're putting them in your cauldron, and then you're going to put them, and then you get to do each of the actions on either side of that domino. But the thing is, as you're putting things in your cauldron, you're essentially making clusters of actions. So it's like the wand action. So if I put that and it's next to another wand action, I now get to do that action twice. And then if it's in a big cluster of like 6 wand actions, like that are all next to each other, I then get to do it 6 times. So you're then trying to build out your cauldron in a way to like do these like maximum turns. But with that, all of those things, like say you move up the wand action then allows you to do a witch action, which means allows you to move witches. Then you can do a witch action. Oh, that allows me to do this action now. And you just put together these like dumb combos. It's just insane. You're going to have at least one turn in every game of Witchstone where you're just like, holy crap, I just did so many different things. It's so good. We just played it again recently, kind of for Halloween because it's witch themed and stuff. And I was reminded, like, oh yeah, that's right. Witchstone's an absolute banger. There is an expansion for it, which we haven't played yet. But I do really want to try it now because I freaking love Witchstone. I think it's absolutely shout-standing. Okay, and that was it. That is 37 games for this month, 18 new ones. It was really good. Mike is not here, but I will go ahead and do the Q&A portion of our rapid reviews. Again, if you're watching this live, drop some questions in the chat. If you have any, I'll kind of scroll back through our chat here and find the ones that people asked earlier. Mark Tizzy said, picked up Naga Raja based on the underrated vid recommendation. Kiddo 14 hated it. Blessed. Let's go. So I found it fun. She called it repetitive and boring. Here's the thing. What do 14-year-olds like? They don't like anything. So that, to me, is not a knock on Nagaraj. It's more of a knock on 14-year-olds who are terrible. Let's be honest, right? 13-year-olds are the worst people on the planet. We all know that. We were all the worst people on the planet when we were 13. That's just how it goes, you know? So what do 14-year-olds even like? I don't count that one. And then Witch in the Wardrobe, Danny I got That's Not a Hat today in the mail based on our recommendation. I hope you like it. I really enjoy that game. So going through, finding some questions here. Someone said, dudes, if you got updated Fallout rules, do a playthrough. We've never played Fallout at all, so we definitely don't have the updated rules. But I don't know who makes the Fallout game. If they want us to play it, they can contact us. That's probably not one we're going to search out. So do you think the Garfield games are starting to get too big with their games like Ezra and Nehemiah? No, because it's kind of a natural progression. They've talked about this before. They talked about this. They kind of do like a State of the Union address every year. Where they kind of talk about what's coming out that year, talk about just a lot of different stuff. And they've mentioned that like, because the next game, Inventors of the South Tigers, is like the heaviest game they've ever made. And so they've talked about that. They're saying like, we're not trying to make games heavier. They're just ending up being heavier. We have these ideas for these games, and it's like, our only goal is to make awesome games. If that game ends up being lighter and quicker, great. If it ends up being heavier and longer, great. Their only focus is just trying to make the best game they can. And it kind of, wherever it ends up is where it ends up. They are definitely starting to skew a little heavier, but they also came out with like Shipwrights of the North Sea Redux, which is pretty darn light this year. And so it kind of depends, you know, they're probably skewing heavier, but I think gamers as a whole tend to, as you get in, you start with like a lot of gateway games, a lot of party games, and then people tend to skew heavier. I think designers and publishers tend to kind of do the same thing, right? And so, especially when the publishers and designers are like two people, it's like you're really going off of those two people's what they like in games. And I think Shem and Sam are both skewing heavier and heavier, so their games are kind of doing the same thing. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. But if you look at like the South Tiger series versus like the North Sea series, they're definitely a lot heavier. But I think it's kind of the natural progression. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. It's just kind of like a thing, you know? Dinah said, this theme sounds great to me. I think you're still talking about Ezra and Nehemiah. Said, is it a heavy game? It's definitely one of their heaviest games. I found it personally pretty easy to like grok and get the rules for, but it is definitely one of their heavier games. And what's up, Jabs? How you doing, baby? Love you, dude. Okay, going through looking for some questions. Instead of all the new games played, which one left you guys wanting to see more? Okay, hold on. Let me look at the new games. 20 strong. Oh gosh, can I not just like fast forward through this? Okay, apparently I can't. Evacuation, definitely. I'm really excited to try that one more. So I'm trying to go through all the new games we had. Imperial Miners, I'm really excited to try more. Oranienburg Canal for sure. I really, and Revive. I would say of all of these, I'd probably say the Revive is the one that I'm kind of looking forward to exploring the most because like I feel like we barely kind of touched the surface of that one. I don't know if I'm gonna end up, that means I'm gonna end up liking it more than the other ones, but in terms of the one I'm looking forward to seeing more of, probably Revive at this point. But really all of them. To be completely honest. Going through looking for questions. It said, man, I'm not a fan of Horrified, but the art for this one is fantastic about Horrified Greek monsters. Yeah, I agree. I like Horrified personally, but like I think the look of Horrified, particularly the looks of the boards, are outstanding. They're so clear. They're so well done. I think they're very good. It said bumping tracks. I think you were referring to Imperial Miners. Yes, a bit, but it's not that much of bumping tracks. But there are bumping tracks in Imperial Miners because you know how much we love bumping tracks. Would you rather be able to make any game appear to you one at a time or know how to play any game when you open the box? Know how to play any game when I open the box, for sure. I personally really like reading rule books. I really like learning games, but it would be very convenient to just open a box and go and immediately know all of the rules. Or rather, you know what? It's not even so much. I'll say this. The reason why I would like it is not so much because then I wouldn't have to read the rule book. Because I like reading the rule book. I like learning games. What I would like it for is that when a question comes up about rules during the game, just knowing the answer and knowing like for a fact that I know, that would be very nice. The whole learning games part, I actually really enjoy. And so that part of it, I wouldn't like, oh man, I want to never have to read a rule book again. I like reading rule books. I know it makes me a nerd, but I like it. But I would love to just be able to know all the rules off the top of my head. That would be great. That would be outstanding. It's a dang top 10 game all time, and it's got a solo. Yeah, Oranienburg Canal is really good. I'll say the solo game is going to be more or less the same as a two-player game. Yeah, if you like Uwe, that kind of puzzle, we'll probably cover it at some point. I'm sure we'll do a playthrough of it. I don't know when. Our schedules have been like nuts. We have been, which is a good for business. It's very good for business. We have been getting a lot of sponsored playthroughs, but it's been making it so just playing games that we just want to cover because we just want them shown is tough. It's been tough in the second half of this year, which again is a very good thing because it's good for business. But it's been tougher for us to just kind of be like, oh man, I really want to show off evacuation, and it's just like I don't know when we're gonna be able to do it. You know, it's just that's life right there. So I think it was Jeremy Howard who put Revive as his #1 solo game of 2022. Is that right? Wow, I didn't know that it was that highly recommended solo, and I like Jeremy Howard a lot. He's a lovely human. So that's good to know. That is very, very good to know. If you're just going to get into Too Many Bones, would you recommend starting with Unbreakable, Undertow, or Core? Core. Do not start with Undertow. From what I've heard, Undertow would be the absolute worst starting point. I think it's like the heaviest, most complicated of them all. Unbreakable's not too bad, at least in terms of like, now granted, I'm also probably not a very good person to ask about this. I haven't played that much Too Many Bones. Unbreakable, you probably could. I would probably still say the core game, but not Undertow. Do not start with Undertow. From what I've heard, that is a very bad starting point. But yeah. I wish the price point for Too Many Bones was a bit more accessible. Yeah, I mean, that's Chip Theory Games, right? Like their stuff is, their whole thing is that they have super deluxe games. They do chips, they do dice, they do all this cool stuff. And that is really, really cool. But it does make their games very expensive. But that's their thing, right? That's their thing. What were your top 3 Garfield games? I don't know. We ask this question all the time. If I had to go gut reaction right now, it's probably Wayfarers, probably Viscounts, and then probably Scholars. If I had to say right now, although I'll tell you, Shipwrights, the new Shipwrights, I really, really like. But if I had to say just gut reaction right now, it would probably be Wayfarers. Wayfarers is #1. Then probably Viscounts, and then probably Scholars right now. But who knows? It changes every day, basically. Can we expect to see new Murph merch with bump and tracks, combo wombos, Dum Dum Fuego Fire? Yes, I don't know when. I've been saying that I'm going to make those shirts for like 6 months now, and I just have not had time. And I don't know when I'm going to have time. To be completely honest, there's certain things that I need to finish up that are like artistic projects, and then we're going to be running a Kickstarter next year before we move. We are moving, if you don't know, we are moving back to our hometown around May/June of next year. So around that time, it's probably going to be kind of a weird time for our content because like we're going to be moving. And so we're going to be running a Kickstarter, which we were planning on doing anyway, but that's probably going to be in like April, May, probably in there, and we're going to be having another game that's designed by Atlas in chat and Mike, and I'm going to be doing the art for that game as well. And so I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to. I really, really want to because I really want new merch. We haven't had new merch in a very, 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 very long time. And I would really like to do some. I have not had the time or the bandwidth to do it. But yes, combo wombos and bump and tracks at the very, very least are shirts, along with shirts with our new logo on it. We just don't have shirts with our new logo on it, even though we've had our new logo for like 6 months now. Those two, combo wombos and bump and tracks, are two shirts that I do want to do. I have ideas for them. I have not had the bandwidth or the time to do it. But some point, so we probably honestly should just hire someone to do it for us. But I'm like, no, I want to do it. And we probably should just do it. What's the deets on the play? Mike is in a play. Yes, he has opening nights. It is a play called Red. It's about Rothko. I think he's a painter. And it's a play about him. It's a two-player. Gosh, I'm such a gamer. It's a two-person play. One person is playing Rothko. The other person is playing like Rothko's assistant, I believe, a new assistant. Mike is playing Rothko. It's a very, very good play. Very wordy. And Mike, if you don't know, is a really, 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 I have to say this because his brother. Mike is a really, really good actor. You don't get to see it very often. It's one of the things that I always kind of complain about because like I can show, so like Mike acts, I do art, right? I can show my art much easier than Mike can show his art. I can just draw a picture or whatever, put on the internet, and people go, cool, and I go, thanks. Mike doesn't get to show his acting like ever. Even the skits that we do, like, sure, we're acting, but Mike doesn't get to show off his chops. Mike is an incredible actor. And you never really get to see it, unfortunately. And he will do this play, but y'all don't get to see it, right? Unfortunately. And so it's one of those things where, like, I would love to find a way for Mike to be able to frankly, to flex and show off his art because he's absolutely incredible. And so I'm excited to see this because it's the first kind of play he's done in a while, especially like kind of like serious play, like a full-out play. And it's probably going to be a freaking powerhouse because his co-star, this guy named Ben, is also a very, very good actor. And so it's a show with just them two. It's probably going to blow the freaking doors off the place. It's going to be so good. And the show itself is also very, very good. I think there's a video of the show. Alfred Molina, who played like Doc Ock, is Rothko. And it's very, very good. I don't know where it is. I know it's online because I know they watched it, and that's what made them want to do the play. And Karen, Mike's wife, is directing the play, so it's been a bit of a tough time right now because they're in rehearsal all the time. So like I've been babysitting a ton, other people have been babysitting a ton, so we've been making it work. But it's gonna be a banger. It's gonna be an absolute banger. All right, going through trying to find some more. Oh my gosh, my chat just jumped all the way to the bottom. Okay. As White Castle is near the top of my wanted playlist. Jabs, you're not going to BGCon this year, right? If you were, we could play it. But I don't think you are. Have you guys gotten your copy of the Gronhop Master Set? I've been looking for a playthrough of the Autumn, but all the playthroughs are the old solo, so I'd love to see you guys play the new one. We have played the new one. We did a playthrough of it when it was on Kickstarter. We do have our finished version now. I have not played it solo. I don't think we're going to do a playthrough of it solo. Our solo playthroughs don't do very well. It makes sense. People like to see us together. We are a duo. But our solo stuff doesn't do very well. So unless it's like a solo only game, like Hoplomachus or 20 Strong, we don't generally do solo stuff because it just doesn't do very well. So I can't imagine that we are going to do a solo playthrough of it, maybe on like a stream. We are going to be also, if you didn't know, we are going to be we're ending our time over on Twitch. We're moving our live streams over to YouTube. So you'll be able to see us live more often. Maybe if there's a time where only one of us could be here, one of us could solo it, that'd be cool. But in terms of doing a full playthrough of it, I highly doubt we will, because they just frankly aren't really worth our time, because doing playthroughs are a lot of work. They are a ton of manpower. They take a long time to do, and they don't do well enough for us to do them. So I don't think we're going to do a solo playthrough of it. But if I ever do get a chance to solo it, Evan, I will let you know what I thought of it. But I really, really like La Granja. La Granja is an absolute masterpiece, I think. And the new version is really, really cool and really, really pretty. And so, yeah, I like it a lot. Do you take games to Thanksgiving? We do Thanksgiving here, Diana. We do kind of Friendsgiving with, it's usually Mike, Karen, me, Logan now, and then our friends Jimmy and Hannah, and that is our Thanksgiving. It's only usually the 5 of us. So yes, we do, because it's at this house. And so, no, we don't. In terms of like for other holidays, other family functions, not really. We bring games for like Mike and I and Karen to play, but no one else in our family. Our brother and sister play games, but like our mom, dad, none of them play games. And so we don't tend to bring a ton of games because they don't generally get played. But if we usually will play at least a couple things with our brother and sister, and then, but that's kind of it. And so for Thanksgiving though, yeah, because we will be playing games where we always play games. And so yeah, will you be doing a new playthrough with the coming 1.5 rules? I think you're still talking about Fallout. No, unless whoever makes Fallout contacts us and sponsors a playthrough, no, we won't be covering it. Again, like as I was talking about, we don't really have time to cover a ton of stuff that's not paid for, just because paid for playthroughs is one of the main ways that we pay rent and don't get evicted from our various houses and apartments. So those things tend to get first priority. And so, and then on top of the Fallout game, it's just not going to be a game that we're going to cover just on our own, most likely. And so if they hit us up and they really want us to, everyone has a contact or wants to tweet at them to say, hey, have these guys play your game, we'll gladly do so. But otherwise, probably not. I can't imagine. Will you guys be going to Dice Tower West? Almost assuredly, Jabs. We don't know 100% for sure. We haven't bought our stuff yet, but I would say about 95% sure. Yes. Okay. Linnaeus said, think about some Sashi and Sashi games on BGG. Remember our trip. Let's make a bus route before the guests arrive. Do y'all think they're worth the BGG store prices? I mean, considering it's the only place you can get them, probably. I really like Remember Our Trip. It's a super, super unique game. I've heard Let's Make a Bus Route dice games really good. I haven't played before the guests arrive. I don't know. I really like them, but it's hard. I don't know how expensive they are. If they're really, really expensive, probably not. But it's also the only place you can get them unless you're like in Japan. I think Sashi and Sashi is a Japanese publisher. So maybe it's kind of hard to say, honestly. I really like Remember Our Trip. Next time we see you, Linnea, we'll try to remember to bring it. Try to remind us next time we're going to be at a con together, because I really like that game. What game would you like an expansion for? Oh, gosh. What game would I like an expansion for? That I'm assuming that doesn't have one. Quadropolis. That game. That's probably not the best answer possible. It's just the first thing I can think of. I really like Quadropolis a lot. I'd like to see more. I'd like to see more. I'm going to say Quadropolis. Boom. Get wrecked, nerds. Quadropolis is a great game. But there's probably better answers. I feel like there is an answer to that. Like, oh, man, this game needs an expansion or really could use an expansion. Most of them have expansions, honestly. I'm trying to think of another one that like either doesn't have an expansion or isn't so new that it probably won't get an expansion within the next year. I'm sticking with Quadropolis. Moving back north, yes, we are moving back to NorCal around probably May or June next year. Yeah, so next year is going to be a wild one, fam. We're going to have to move studios. We are going to be getting an external studio, probably in an office space somewhere. So I'm moving my whole apartment. They're moving their whole house. We're moving our whole studio. It's going to be a wild time, y'all. But we're also going to be moving into a new space, which will be its own thing. I'm still demanding Puppers Murph shirts. Another shirt that I am planning on doing at some point. Will you be going to Spiel 2024? I doubt Spiel 2024. I am committed to go to Spiel 2025. Who knows? We'll see. 2024, I can't imagine will happen because that will be a couple months after we moved. Moving is very expensive, very tumultuous. It's always just very stressful, a lot going on. I can't imagine it's going to happen next year. Same with like Bing Bong Con. We want to keep happening. Bing Bong Con will now be in our hometown, but I don't think Spiel is on the... It maybe. I don't think it'll happen next year just because of the sheer amount of stuff that's happening next year. So, I don't know. It's hard to say, but I doubt it. It's on Amazon Prime, talking about Red. Thank you, Jared. No BGG for jabs. Yeah, that's what I thought, but Dice Tower West indeed. Yeah, we should be a Dice Tower West unless something happens. Hi, Steve. I found the link to our video. Are you still talking about the Fallout game? We have never covered a Fallout game unless I was asleep or really forgetting something. Thanks to watching your pickleball short video multiple times. My phone keeps offering pickleball gear as a suggestion. Get it. Pickleball's the greatest game ever made. My guy play pickleball 3 times a week. It's incredible. Remember our trip was $50. The other two are 35. I think 35 for the Let's Make a Bus for our dice game is probably good. Remember our trip for 50 is a lot. I would say, Linnea, hold off and remember our trip until you have a chance to play it. Because it's a really, and I mean this as a compliment, it's a really weird game. It's a very, very, very unique, really, really unique, what am I trying to say? Unique game. It's just very, very different than any other game. And I don't know if $50 is worth it unless you know you're going to like it. And that's a game you really are not going to know you're going to like whether or not, unless you try it. And because remember our trip is such a unique game. It's really, really so different. I mean, I think it was the top of our unique games list when we did our unique games list earlier this year. I think it was number 1 because it's wildly unlike anything else I've ever played. All right. Said, look at the link. I don't know what we're talking about. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm missing something. Are you guys going to PAX in December? No. At this point, we're officially not going. We really, 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 really wanted to go. Couldn't make it happen. We can't afford it this year. We just can't afford it. Really wanted to go. I love PAX Unplugged. It's probably my favorite of the big conventions. Really bummed out we're not going, but we just can't go this year. It is a bummer. But yeah, no PAX this year. I assume we'll be going next year, but no PAX, unfortunately. Any Luceros on the horizon? Yes. Again, it's kind of in that same area of like, that's a game we're not going to get paid to play, and so we have to figure out a time to do it. And Luceros on top of that are also like multiple times, like we need to play them multiple times. We always try and play a game before we record it, of course, but Luceros are like, there's some games where we can play it like once and be like, okay, we get this game. Luceros like, we got to play this like 3 or 4 times before we play it. Like Inventions, we covered that. We played it, I think, 6 times before we played it because we were just like, we've got to get how to make this game work down better. If I had to guess, the next Lacerda we'll be playing is Lisboa. We have Lisboa. We played it more recently, and I've liked it, of course, because we really like Lacerda games. So yeah, I am sure we'll play Lisboa here soon. I don't know when though. I don't know when. I guess I'll give you kind of a preview of like games that are not sponsored that we're trying to get played. I would say before the end of the year. It's probably like Evacuation, Star Wars Rebellion. We're really committed to getting played and get a playthrough of before the end of the year. We really want to replay War of the Ring for a playthrough, but with some expansions. I don't know if that one's going to happen this year. That's such a monumentally large game. Maybe like Oranienburg Canal or Kutna Aura. Because again, we're kind of doing stuff for like stuff that we want to showcase, but also stuff that we want to get that we think will do well enough in terms of views to kind of warrant the video. It's one of the things that we're going to be using our live streams for, is to kind of play some games that are maybe not really worth it for us to do a game house on because they just won't get enough views. Because people constantly are like, play like games no one's ever heard of. And we're like, no, because no one will watch that video. And so, because people constantly are talking about like, everyone in comments and stuff complains about only everyone ever talking about the Cult of the New. But the numbers don't lie. People want to hear about the new games. They don't want to hear about games from 5 years ago that no one's ever heard of. As much as people claim that they do in the comments, the numbers don't lie. So the thing is, there's a lot of games that like we really would love to do a thing for, but like again, it's doing a playthrough is a lot of work. It's a ton of filming. It is a whole thing. We need to write and film a whole overview for it. Editing is like basically the entire day. There's a lot of work. And so like doing something that's going to get like 800 views is just not worth it for us if we're not getting paid to do it. So there's a lot of games where we're like, man, like say like Powerline. We've talked about like one of the more underrated games. This game's really, really good. We're not going to do a playthrough of this game because it won't get enough views to make it worth it. So one of the things that we're trying to do with our live streams is play games that we kind of want to do game houses on or kind of want to showcase, but they aren't necessarily worth us doing game houses for because of the sheer amount of man hours it takes to do a game house. And so it's kind of probably our streams here are probably going to be like kind of like an underrated games series. Like there'll probably be a lot of games because it's like our live streams are here for people who are live. If people want to watch it after the fact, that's great, but they're more for the people who are there live. So the thing is, it's like we kind of don't care nearly as much about how well they do after the fact in terms of getting views. If they get a lot of views, great. If they don't, though, it's not a huge deal because live streams are inherently a lot less work than playthroughs because a live stream is just a live stream, and once it's done, it's done. We don't have to edit it. We don't have to do anything else. So it's very easy to be like, oh yeah, let's play, Crown of Amara. This is a really, really great, really, in my opinion, super underrated Euro game that kind of no one really knows or plays. And so like us doing a live stream of that is great because then people get to see these kind of underrated games that we want to show off, but it's not, but we don't have to put forth all the effort into it and then have it kind of not do very well. So I don't know how the heck I got onto a whole. Oh, we're talking about Lacerda games. Talking about those are games that like we'll probably do well enough. We'll probably do a playthrough for. So yeah, so when we're choosing games to do playthroughs for, it's a mix of like what we want to showcase and what we think people will watch and want to watch. Evacuation, one of the reasons why I want to do that is because it's a new hot game from Essen. I'll tell you right now, when we get the new expansion for Ark Nova, we will be immediately doing a playthrough. I don't know when we're going to film it, but we will be filming it very soon and getting that out as soon as possible because Ark Nova is humongous and people love Ark Nova, and so that video will probably do pretty well. Sometimes we will get stuff and try to do everything we can to immediately get it out because also there's just kind of a speed game to content creation. It's a weird job, to be completely honest. So yeah, so there's a couple different things that we were kind of trying to get played by the end of the year. The kind of main one that we're really, really committed to is we will have a playthrough of Star Wars Rebellion, which people have been asking for a long time. We will have a playthrough of that before the end of the year. I don't know when, because we need to play that one at least a couple times. Mike's played it. I haven't played it. So we'll figure out that. Can confirm, I'm people and I love Ark Nova. Yeah, so that's kind of a long answer to not really what you asked. But yeah, that's kind of, again, if you're ever wondering like what we choose when we do playthroughs, it's a lot of that. It's a real big mix between a lot of different things, because you just have to think about it. It's like, any old job. It's like if you're putting forth a ton of hours towards something, it's got to be worth it. And there are certain things that just aren't. Again, earlier someone asked about solo playthroughs, and they don't do very well. They just don't. I wish they did, but they don't. And so, man, I'm sure Marine Worlds for Ark Nova will get a ton of views. Definitely not for that. Yeah, it probably will. Our playthrough of Ark Nova is our third biggest playthrough we've ever done in terms of views. So, yeah, we're gonna one of the reasons why we're gonna redo War of the Ring. One is because we really like War of the Ring, but two is because people freaking love War of the Ring, and weirdly, despite War of the Ring being this humongous game that most people have not played, even like hardcore gamers, the people who do like it really, really like it. And War of the Ring content tends to get a ton of views on YouTube, and I don't entirely know why, but it does. Like War of the Ring is our second biggest playthrough in terms of views we've ever done by like a hugely large margin. It is like way bigger than Ark Nova, which is number 3, by like 20 or 30,000 views. Our biggest one is Slay the Spire. It's because it's Slay the Spire. Our Slay the Spire ones really, really took off. And so we want to redo War of the Ring because, one, we really like it. We want to showcase it again, but also because we're like, them sweet, sweet views, baby. What are your top 3 board and dice games? Wow. What a question. I don't know. My favorite's probably Tuatansuyu, which is probably a unpopular decision for most people. Tuatansuyu is probably my favorite. It's me, Mike, and Rado who are the real big Tuatansuyu stans. I have a hunch Nucleum will be in my top 3. I don't know if it is now, but it probably will. I'm trying to think of board and dice games. I really like Barcelona. I don't think it's in our top 3. I'm gonna go. Oh. It's a tough one. If we're going, okay, so I guess it's going to be, right now, it's going to be Tuatansuyu, Le Grand Ha. That's not their original game, but they came out with the deluxe version, so we're going with that. Tuatansuyu, Le Grand Ha, and I'm going to say Nucleum. I'm gonna throw Nucleum in there. It's between Nucleum and Teotihuacan. Mike is a much bigger fan of Teotihuacan than I am. I like Teotihuacan a lot, but Mike, that's like, it used to be his favorite game of all time. So I'm gonna go with Nucleum, because I think Nucleum is going to continue to climb. But it is Tuatansuyu and Le Grand Ha are farther away from 3. Although I think Le Grand Ha will probably take over as number 1. So views. So board game for a living sounds amazing. It is a cool job. It is a cool job. It is not. There's a lot of jobs that there's a lot of not super fun stuff about it. But that's with any job, and any job that seems like, oh my God, it must be so cool to be a star athlete or whatever, whatever. These jobs that people tend to look at and be like, oh man, that's such an amazing job. It's like there's a lot of really cool stuff about it. There's a lot of not so cool stuff about it, and a lot of challenges about it. And so, yeah, but I'm not gonna lie, it's a great job. It's a very weird job. It's a very difficult job. It's an absolute ton of work. People like to think that doing this job is just sitting here like, oh, you just sit online and talk about games. It's like, that is so not what this job is. It is so much work. But it's a blast when we get to. It's one of these people like, you just get to play games for a living. It's like, we really don't. We actually don't play that many games. I know we did rap reviews where we played like 37 games in the month, but it's like, and that sounds like a lot, but it's like, we don't just sit around and play games. On a normal work day, unless we are filming a game for a playthrough, we almost never play a game. If we're playing a game, it's usually during live streams, and if we can find some time outside of work to play games. Like, We don't ever play games during our workday. We just don't have time to. So yeah, but it's a very fun job. It's a very cool job. There's a lot of really cool things that go along with it. But there's a lot of not so cool things. It's just that's how work is, right? And there are definitely some times where I'm like, man, it would just be simpler if I just like worked in an office and got like a paycheck every 2 weeks, had a W-2. Taxes are super weird when you do a job like this. Like, there's a lot of weird stuff with it. But yeah, Twitch changed their policy to allow both YouTube and Twitch at the same time. I think you might be able to do both at the same time if you're hesitant to leave the Twitch community behind. Yes, they now allow dual streaming. I don't think we are going to do dual streaming for one specific reason. We're not really that concerned about leaving our Twitch community behind because almost everyone who watches us on Twitch watches us on YouTube. So it won't really, there are probably, I'm sure, some people who like will get left behind, but that's just how it goes sometimes. You know, it's like we got to make the decision that's right for us and our business. And we think that moving to YouTube is the right decision for us. But I don't think the leaving Twitch community is that big of a thing. Maybe we're really wrong about that, but it doesn't seem like it is. I don't think we're going to dual stream for one specific reason. Our playthrough, our live streams on YouTube, we're kind of planning on doing them kind of more like our normal playthroughs with just a lot more of us talking to chat. But if we have, because one thing that's nice about YouTube is if you're watching YouTube after the fact, you can just turn on the live chat. And you can see if we're responding to chat, you can see it over there. You can do the same thing with Twitch too. But the problem is if we are both streaming to Twitch and live stream, we will need a way to be able to see both chats. And there's many programs that allow you to bring in both chats into one chat stream so we can see both. The problem is we then would need to put that chat on the screen. Because if we are then responding to something from Twitch, people who are watching the thing after the fact won't be able to see that because it won't be in the live chat on the right side of their screen. So that means if we want to make it a good viewing experience after the fact, we would need to put chat on screen. One of the main reasons why we don't put our Twitch streams onto our YouTube channel after the fact is because we're talking to chat constantly during our streams because it's live, and people after the fact can't see the chat. And so it's just not a very good viewing experience. And so we don't want to have the chat on the screen personally because it's just not really the look we're going for our streams. So yeah, I don't think we're going to dual stream, at least as for right now. That might change. All this stuff might change as it is. But yeah, I don't think we're going to dual stream right now because it's just not in the plans. It's just on the plans. We're kind of leaving Twitch. We are kind of bye. There's a lot of things that Twitch does that are significantly better than YouTube in terms of live streaming, but there's also a lot of stuff where they just drop the ball horrendously. But yeah, so at this point, we're not planning on dual streaming. That might change, but we probably won't because we don't really want the chat on the screen. So Board Game Channel as a job sounds great, but the pressure of playing new game after new game sounds like a struggle too. Yeah, well, I was going to say there's not really much pressure to play new games. There is in the sense where, again, people only really want to hear about new games. And I know people are going to say, I want to hear about old games. You are one of few. I promise you. Numbers don't lie. That is just how it is. And so I think that pressure is a little bit more strong for reviewers. Mike and I are not board game reviewers. We are not a review channel. The only reviews we do are during rapid reviews like this, which has turned into a very long talking session. You shouldn't leave Mike. We shouldn't have Mike go away because once I start talking, we're done. I will leave very soon, though, I promise. Because we're not reviewers, the pressure for us to play new games constantly and get them out quick is not nearly as strong as it is for board game reviewers. That's one of the reasons why we don't do reviews. We don't want to do reviews. We don't have any plans on ever doing reviews because it's just not something we want to do. But that pressure of getting a game and getting your review out, specifically getting your review out before anyone else, that is a big, big thing in any kind of content creation, not just board games. Thank you so much, Jason. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for that super chat. Love you to death. Thank you so much. Cheers, another great live stream. Well, I'm glad. Thank you. I hope you enjoy it. I enjoy talking to chat. So this is one of the reasons why I want to move over here is because we don't get to talk to our YouTube people nearly as much. And there's a lot of YouTubers who just don't want to move to Twitch. So we're like, we might as well go where people are, right? So thank you again for that super chat. Appreciate you. I'm all for the unhinged ramblings of Nick. Yeah, it's gonna happen. If I'm alone, I'm just gonna talk. I feel the need to talk constantly because it's just me. Whereas if it was Mike here, I could let him talk for a while. But so it's just gonna be me talking. But yeah, so the pressure of playing new games, there is some of that where it's like, again, once we get the Marine World expansion for Ark Nova, we're gonna play it, we're gonna record it, get it out as soon as possible because that is when we want to get it out quick. But for the most part, that's not as prevalent to us because we don't do reviews. We do playthroughs, we do top 10s, we do challenge videos, we do skits. All that stuff means the pressure is not quite as big. And so that pressure though for reviewers is huge. It's absolutely huge. And and it can suck the life out of a game because you are playing games less for fun and more because you need to get a review out. And it just kind of kills it. That's one thing that's one of the biggest kind of drawbacks of doing board game content creation is you lose your hobby, right? We have been able to keep our hobby to a degree, but you are going to lose your hobby for the most part. And making your hobby your job is dangerous because it's going to make your hobby not your hobby anymore. And yeah, we've been able to manage that and navigate that well, I think. But it's tough. It's definitely tough where you're kind of like, well, we got to play this because I would love to play this X game, but we got to play this game because we're being paid to play it, and that's just, again, that's how we pay rent, right? So it's like, we're never going to apologize for having sponsored content on our channel. We're never going to apologize for the amount of sponsored content on our channel because that is how we pay rent. And so if people have a problem with that, that's what it is, baby. It's a professional actor here, insane, much less glamorous than people think. Yeah, it's not nearly as cool as people think it is. It's very cool in some ways. There are certain times you're like, wow, that's really cool. We got to do this cool thing. That's really cool. There is a lot of not glorious stuff about it. It said, I mean, just like you always think, oh, my hobby as a job sounds great, but then it's also work. So that could affect the hobby, if that makes sense. Of course it does, yeah. It's almost impossible to keep your hobby when you make it your job. Again, for us, we still really, really love games. We still love playing games, and that has kept our hobby alive. We still do play games outside of work, not nearly as much as we used to, of course. But yeah, there's a lot of people who have made their biggest passion their job, and it ruined their passion for that thing, And that's just how it is, And some people can keep it, or some people are okay with that hobby kind of going away and it turned into a job. It's just what it is. But yeah, it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. I think for us, it's been a little easier because we didn't plan on this being our job. It just kind of ended up that way. And so I think going into it with just kind of like, oh, we just wanted to do this for fun. And then it kind of snowballing to where it is now, where it's our jobs like that I think was able to make it a little bit better in terms of that, other than like starting with the intent to like try to be a board game channel who's gonna like, I want this eventually to be my job. Like that was never the plan. We just started doing it because we wanted to make silly videos and we liked board games. And so like, it's just, it kind of organically happened that way. And I think that's one of the things that, made it possible. Because when we kind of started doing this, like there were a couple channels where like board game content creation was their job, but like there was like probably like 3 or 4. And so there was never that plan. It just kind of ended up this way, Yeah, it works. BK Westman, it works well. Our channel is what it is. Our channel would probably be a lot bigger if we were a review channel, but we're not because we don't want to do reviews, so we don't. And yeah, we just kind of, yeah, that's just kind of what it is. Linnea said, that's why I have a boring job, to make my hobby seem even more fun, but for real, my day job feeds the rest of my life, so I have clear separation. Yeah, and on top of that, there's nothing wrong with just having a job. Your job you do not need to be passionate about your job. A job is a job. Thank you so much, Evan. Here's a small hobby sacrifice. Thanks for talking about it, and I appreciate you guys. Love the channel. Thank you so much, Evan. Thank you for the super chats, y'all. Y'all are very, very kind, very, very, very wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. We got Tej, Jason, and then Evan. Thank you so much for those super chats. We love you all to death. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having a job. A job should be paying your bills, and if it just does that, that is okay. That is okay. You do not need to love your job. You do not need to be passionate about your job. I would love if you didn't hate your job, but If you show up, clock in, clock out, bounce, then go do whatever you want, I think that's totally fine. I think that's totally fine. But yeah, I am very passionate about my job. I'm very lucky. Some people can be, but yeah, there's nothing wrong with a job being a job. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It said, what am I missing from my Murph Bros shelf? This will be the last thing I'm going to answer, and then I'm going to leave. I promise you. What am I missing from Murph Bros shelf? I have Wendake, Historio, Shakespeare, Pagoda, Castell. There are probably others. If we're talking about games that we really evangelize a lot, I would say at this point, Feum is one you're missing. If you're going from the Murph Bros shelf of like stuff that they evangelize a lot, I'd say Feum, which is right there. I would say Prodigal's Club, which is right here, is another one that we evangelize a lot. Probably those two. Those are our two other big evangelism ones. All right, y'all. I'm going to head out. This was awesome. I talked for a very long time here. Well, I guess like 45 minutes, which is, again, you can't get me alone. I'll talk forever. All right, love you all to death. Thank you so much. That was a very long rapid review. So if you're watching this after the fact, again, make sure to turn on that chat because you will have no idea what I'm talking about. All right, everybody. We are going to get on out of here. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a good weekend, and we will see you all later. Bye, everybody.